Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is looking to be the last tentpole release for the Nintendo Switch in 2017. A game that I personally am really looking forward to. And I'm really hoping it doesn't suck. Because if it sucks, Nintendo, you better be ready. I will torture your asses to the moon! But let's hope that's not the case. Before I talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, when it releases on next week I believe, I want to talk about the Xeno series. But before we can talk about the Xeno series, the games of Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii and Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U, I want to talk about the history because the Xeno series is a series that has expanded many console generations and many different developers, but never really carrying the same characters from game to game. And it all begins on the Nintendo Entertainment System with Xenomorph. A game that has absolutely nothing to do with any of this, but it begins with Xeno. The series really begins on the PlayStation 1 with Xenogears, published by Squaresoft. Originally, it was the pitch for Final Fantasy VII, written by Mr. Takahashi Tetsuya, a man who's considered to be the brainchild behind the Xeno series. While the pitch was considered good, it was a bit too dark and a bit too god-killing and a bit too what the fuck are you on right now for Final Fantasy standards. Thankfully though, Square thought the concept was good enough to be its own game, and it became its own game in Xenogears, released in 1998. And people liked it. While not quite on the same level as the Final Fantasy series or some of the other games on the PlayStation 1, like Suikoden, it is a worthy purchase for your PlayStation 1 collection. After the 2000s started, Takahashi was kind of in a bit of a dilemma. He had two options: either stick with Square, as they wanted to focus on the Final Fantasy series, or follow his dream, chase an ambition, and start his own game company and make the games he wants to make. He chose the latter and made Monolith with several other game developers at the time. And we started publishing games underneath Namco's label, and they made some pretty good games. They made Namco X Capcom, a game that was infamously left in Japan, and the woefully underrated Bankaito series, a game that I'm really hoping gets remade. But the main star of the show here is the Xeno Saga. It was originally planned as a series of 6 games, count them, 3 on each hand, or 5 on one hand, and 1 on the other. 6 games that would have expanded many themes such as space, god-killing, and is it masturbation if I fuck a robot that looks like me? I think there are better words for those themes, but I'm freestyling here, everybody. Bear with me. This whole series had to start with somewhere, right? And it started with Xenosaga Episode 1, released in 2002, I believe. And it was a hit. It sold well, was well received by the critics, well received by the fans, and was a great start for the series. Unfortunately though, the good times were not to last. Xenosaga Episode 2 came out a few years later and changed things up, but not for the better. For one, they changed the art style to more of a realistic form instead of this anime art style, and wasn't really everyone's cup of tea. They also changed the battle system, which again, wasn't everyone's cup of tea. The end result was the game having critical success, but not making enough money at retail for Namco and Monolith's liking. Thankfully though, the game didn't sell that shit, and we got a Xenosaga Episode 3, which unfortunately became the last in the series, so up yours to your 6-part game series, assholes. Xenosaga 3 came out after 2, and while it fixed everything that was wrong with Xenosaga 2, it had better gameplay, it had better graphics, better voice acting, just all around a better game, and considered to be the best of the trilogy, it didn't sell as well as Namco wanted it to. This combined with the fact that Monolith's other major game at the time, Bankaito's Origins, also sold really poorly, wasn't really good for Monolith's morale. This is also being combined with the fact that at the time, Bandai and Namco were merging together, so that meant that money, manpower, and morale was all being spread way too thin. And that's not good. That's boo-boo. Thankfully though, Namco decided to sell some of its stock to Nintendo for Monolith, and basically Nintendo said to Monolith, hey guys, if you come work for us, you can make whatever games you want, but they have to be on Nintendo. Okay, and as a result, we started getting Monolith games underneath Nintendo's label. And while we had a few games such as Disaster, Day of Reckoning, the main game here is Xenoblade Chronicles. Originally not titled Xenoblade Chronicles, it was called Monado at the beginning, announced in E3 2009. It was changed to Xenoblade Chronicles during development in order to honor Takahashi's legacy, and I think it's a better name and a more fitting name for the game itself. And it was released in 2010 in Japan, 2011 for the PAL regions of Europe and Australia. But where's the US release at? where is it at? For some reason, Nintendo of America wasn't interested in publishing Xenoblade Chronicles in the United States. I think it was due to timing because at that time in 2011 and 2012, Nintendo was trying to phase out the Wii for the Wii U, which foul out that did because the Wii U sold fairly poorly. But whenever a game that looks really cool, it's not coming to America, there's outrage, grr, anger, eat these downvotes. That worked for Star Wars Battlefront 2. However, you don't go to Nintendo with all kinds of piss and vinegar. No, you have to be smooth. You have to be calm, like the rain. Introducing Operation Rainfall, an operation, I guess, whose whole point was to bring over 3 games to the States, those games being The Last Story, Pandora's Tower, and of course, the Xenoblade Chronicles to the United States. And thankfully, they made enough noise to get Nintendo's attention. While Nintendo didn't say it was Operation Rainfall that got their attention and motivated them to bring the games to the States, it could easily be inferred that their noise did influence Nintendo in some way. And thankfully, we got those awesome 3 titles into the States. And now that's where the story should end, right? Xenoblade Chronicles comes out, everyone's happy, but the story doesn't end there. No. The only retailer that was willing to carry Xenoblade Chronicles was GameStop. Yeah, GameStop. Those bastards. What they decided to do, not only was stock fairly low, whenever they did get stock in, it was way jacked the fuck up. Like, instead of $50, it'd be like $60 or $70 or even more. So that's shit, so you have to pay more for this game. While I think the game is worth the price of admission, it is a bit hard to swallow a $70 game, even though games are now more or less $70, plus more when you factor in DLC and microtransactions, but we're not here to talk about that. Thankfully though, after the years passed, Xenoblade Chronicles a massive fan base, Shulk gets announced for Smash 4, and we get Xenoblade Chronicles on the 3DS, and digitally on the Wii U. Whew. There's a lot to go over for one game franchise, even though it's not really a franchise in the same sense of Sonic the Hedgehog or Mario. It's a franchise that has existed in different forms and embodies the same themes and gameplay styles throughout its existence. Tune in next week when we're going to talk about both of these legendary games of Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii and Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U. Stay tuned, fam. You're really going to feel it. Now, last week on the Z-Man Show, we took a look at the history behind the Xeno series. We started on Xenogears on the PlayStation 1, all the way up to the Xenoblade Chronicles series on Nintendo platforms. I didn't talk about the games themselves though, as I don't have all of them, but I do have Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii and Xenoblade Chronicles X for the Wii U. These are 2 JRPGs that Nintendo has published, and some people will say these are some of the best RPGs, period. So why is that? So let's take 2 quick looks at Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles X. Why only quick looks? I don't have 80 fucking hours to spend on these games right now. With that in mind, let's take a look first at Xenoblade Chronicles on the Nintendo Wii. Xenoblade Chronicles for the Wii is often regarded as one of the best Wii games. I certainly think it's up there along with titles such as No More Heroes, Sonic Colors, and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Hey, Capcom, port that shit to PSN. The concept is pretty grand in scale. The whole world is built on the bodies of 2 titans, the Bionis and the Mechanis. It needs more Bionicle for the next game. We play RPG hero Shulk Hogan, most known for his role in Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS, where he lives out my fantasy of getting stomped in the nuts by a Lady Palutena. The main plot is humans versus robots, and at the heart of it all is a sword, the Monado, that holds the key to solving this conflict. There's a lot more to the plot than that, but no spoilers here. The battle system is something that you will really need to familiarize yourself with. This is not a turn-based RPG, but one based off of MMORPG systems, also known as Morpika. Shulk and friends move around the opponent's auto-attacking, which does dick dong for damage. The main damage comes from the arts at the bottom of the screen. Pick an art and let it rip. There is a lot of strategy involved in battle just beyond spamming random moves. If you do that, that will get you killed and nowhere fast. You have to take into account positioning, status, enemy weaknesses, buffs, debuffs, how much Mountain Dew you drank that day, all of this kind of stuff in order to get through these battles safe and sound. But if you manage your gems well enough, and if you can keep chain combos going, you should be fine, for the most part. A nice thing about Xenoblade is that it isn't super grindy. The side missions kind of suck. Most of them are just collect X amount of Y or kill W amount of Z. Those side quests get really tedious, and that's why I never really liked Morpheus too much, besides the life destroying capabilities. You can kind of subvert the grind though by doing the passively. Just go out into the world and just explore, breathe. Xenoblade Chronicles is a freaking massive game that will take you through many different areas such as villages, grasslands, swamps, snow areas, cities, and each one of these areas is freaking massive. You could spend days just navigating one area of the Mechanis, or the Bionis. Each area has their own bad guys and challenges waiting for Team Shulk. Gameplay pro tip: when you're on the main quest, use Shulk or Melia only. Shulk and Melia turn El Stupido when they are CPU controlled, and they love to fuck things up. Hey Shulk, stop using Battle Soul. I do have a few complaints about Xenoblade Chronicles. Mostly it's kind of lackluster models, and the fact that the game's just a bit too long for its own good. A normal playthrough will last you about 80 hours, and that's not taking into account side missions. But it is a game that really left an impact on me, more so that I can explain in one quick look video. It's a title for the ages that will go down as one of the most epic, ambitious, moving, and most importantly, fun JRPGs of all time. The Wii disc is hard to find and in high demand from Nintendo collectors, but for those who want it, it is available on the new Nintendo 3DS or digitally on the Wii U store. Now, Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii is a great game. It was probably the best game to end the Wii's legendary lifespan on, and I do feel it's one of Nintendo's strongest games, especially narratively. But it did have a sequel, well, not so much a direct sequel, but a follow-up called Xenoblade Chronicles X that doesn't get talked about as much as its predecessor for a few reasons. It was a late release Wii U title, and it was on the Wii U, so there's two things right against it right there. But I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles X is the better of the two games. Why is that? Well, let's take a look right now. Xenoblade Chronicles X is not a direct sequel to the first title, but it carries some of the themes and battle systems. An alien war destroyed the Earth, and now the remaining humans are now surviving on an alien world called Mira. If you're getting a Mass Effect feel or a Titan AE feel here, you're not the only one. Have fun making your own custom OC. You can really go nuts with the character creator in this game. Here's my OC, Don't Steal. And set off on adventure. Xenoblade Chronicles X is a fitting name. It's the cross between Western and Japanese RPGs, ha. The plot and setting are more in line with Western taste, with dialogue trees that Mass Effect fans might be familiar with, but the gameplay and art style are unmistakably Japanese. And indeed, the art in this game is beautiful. Lush grass and wetlands, bone-dry deserts, a land covered in pollen. You better bring your allergy medicine, and the death area of lava that makes Norfair look like freaking Maui. And keep in mind, this is on the Wii U, a system that was far weaker than the PS4 or Xbox One, but somehow Monolith created a truly breathing world teeming with flora and fauna, and it really sucks you in, kind of like a Komodo Cho Soplan worker. Granted, the Soplan might have a lot of pop in at times. Xenoblade Chronicles X is a very customizable game from the word go. You can, between your characters, the weapons you choose, your outfit, your arts, your party, and of course, giant robots known as skells. Is there anything in life that giant robots don't make better? If Banjo-Kazooie had Gundams, maybe that game wouldn't suck so much. Yeah, I went there. The battle system is more or less unchanged from Xenoblade Chronicles. However, gone are chain attacks, but a new mechanic, Overdrive, is here to wreak havoc. Fill up your TP gauge, think of it like a super meter, and let it rip with fast, damaging arts. Level cap is at 60, so plowing your way through the game with brute strength alone won't help you out against the really tough bad guys in Mira. Keep in mind, you're gonna die a lot in this game. You'll be cruising around Mira in your skill, bumping some DMX, and then, oh god, what the hell is that? Oh hey, there's something cool over here. Oh shit, what the fuck? Hey, cool, this thing looks cool. Ah, run away! Oh, what's this dude at? Oh, sweet Jesus. Yeah, Mira is kind of like a less dangerous version of Australia with all the shit here trying to kill you. You better be ready, homie. Xenoblade Chronicles X is kind of a confusing game to get your head around, but here's some gameplay pro tips to get you started, because I am a professional. My first point of professional advice is find a way to build TP quickly. Abusing Overdrive is crucial against late game bosses. Try finding TP gain augments, that's a go way. That leads me to my second point. Second point is change your armor, arts, and augments frequently. There's no one universal build to take out every bad guy. There might be, but none that I found. And 3, This is important. Augments are important. Throwing some resistance up, TP gain, and anti-enemy augments will make your life on Mira that much easier against the end game tyrants. And not to mention, other bonuses like accuracy up or damage up are very helpful to make those post-game bosses even feasible. An easy place to grind for experience is in the Haunting Divine Roost. Go inside the big tree, there is a level 90 Tyrant Insectoid. Joker the Unknowable. Yeah, Joker is level 90, but Joker is a level 90 bug. Slap a few Insectoid damage and accuracy up augments against this motherfucker and max your class out and your squad in no time. And get some rare weapons to boot. Xenoblade Chronicles X is a very obtuse game. The game's mechanics are like taking a crash course in Helioseismology. Mira is a nightmare to navigate early on without a skill. Well, shit like this happens. And the game really doesn't open up until after Chapter 6 when you get a mech. And the faces look kinda off. Then I help out some of the humans in Xenoblade forums in New LA and get a warm feeling like I actually made a difference in the community. Then I take out a big ass tyrant and feel like I've gotten stronger. Then I fly up to the highest peaks with my squad in Mira, and I realize that for all the grief X gives me, and I cannot deny there is a lot of grief in this game, the rush I get from playing this game is some of the highest I've ever gotten in any video game ever. There's so much more I could talk about here in X, but I only have so much time to talk about X. Definitely a reason to keep the Wii U hooked up. Xenoblade Chronicles and Xenoblade Chronicles X are two of the finest JRPGs I've ever played. And I feel like if you are an RPG fan or a Nintendo fan, you owe it to yourselves to check out these titles. They are truly epics, and the rush you get after defeating a giant monster or clearing that awesome side mission is a high that I really haven't felt in a Nintendo game, or at least a Nintendo game up until Breath of the Wild. So, my final rating for both of these titles is S rankings. Definitely check them out if you can. So that about wraps up this episode of The Z-Man Show. Tune in next week where we'll be taking a first look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Stick around, fam. You're going to be really feeling I already used that line, didn't I? What other one-liner can I use? Man, they're making this look like a bunch of jokers. Yeah, land on that note. Before we begin the review proper, let's look at the Xenoblade 2 Collector's Edition, which is amazing. Let's look at this artwork, which is absolutely stunning. This thing is huge, by the way. This is a really big box. Let's open up the box and look at here. We have a copy of the game. This is the Japanese version because I live in Japan. So the game is in Japanese, which is annoying. I'm going to be ordering an English edition soon so I can play the game without having to warp my mind. Next in the game is a music CD with beautiful artwork. I love the steelbook, and the music is amazing. Let's check out the art book really quick. Over 200 pages of concept art and unused things that people like me go nuts over. Love art books. Like the one I got for Xenoblade Chronicles X. That one's also awesome. But how are we going to play the game of Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Introducing the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Pro Controller. This thing is amazing. One of the best controllers I've ever used. I like the buttons on it. I like the colors. I like the X on the front. I like the pink grips. This is an amazing controller. One of the best I've ever used, period. Nintendo knows how to make a good controller. An expensive controller, but a well-worthy investment. As you can see, I've dropped a lot of coin for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. But is the game worth dropping all this money for one game? Well, let's check it out. Keep in mind, I'm only a few hours into the game right now, so I can't give a full rating right now. But I can talk about what I've played so far, which is about the first 3 or 4 hours. Going into Xenoblade Chronicles 2, one of the worries I had was the combat. It was reported that you could no longer auto-attack while moving, which seemed like it would really slow down the battles to a crawl. But thankfully that really isn't the case. Your character, as long as they're standing still, will constantly auto-attack, and your auto-attacks will fill the talent gauge so you can do your special moves. So there's some strategy in when to stand still and tank damage and try to build up your talent gauge versus moving around and trying to pick up some of the items the enemies drop in battle. And they do drop some items like health, which is very crucial in some of these battles early on. I haven't explored the battle system too much, mostly because I don't have a full party yet. But when I do, I am very much looking forward to finding a way to break Rex and make this whole game my oyster. I like the environment too. I like how massive everything is not how massive everything feels. Looking around, there's just a lot of things to explore, a lot of nooks and crannies, a lot of animals walking around, existing in their own thing, like they have their own cycles. It makes the game seem a lot more alive than other titles. And I like how whenever you go to the edge of the city, you get to see these giant open skies, which is very reminiscent of another game I really like called Skies of Arcadia, which is still the best JRPG. I like the anime art style too. Characters are way more expressive. I know it was a point of contention, but I'm digging it. Then again, I'm also an anime fan. I do like the character designs. I even like that one character who looked like they broke their spine because their knockers are so massive. I do have one complaint though, and that is Rex himself. He's more or less a stock shonen or JRPG protagonist. He doesn't have anything too interesting to him, at least right now. He isn't as mysterious as Alma or as compelling as Shulk was, nor is he a blank slate like Rook was in X. Maybe something is lost on me because I am just so early in the game, and I am playing the Japanese version right now, but I don't know, not sure how I feel about Rex. But his outfit's really stupid. Monolith, why did you take away customization for the outfits? You had it there in the first game and in X. Bring it back, guys. Let's give Rex some freaking Nikes, some Levi's, some Timbs. Other than that, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 has been pretty fun so far. I like the environment, I like the art, I like the music, I like the combat, and I like the fact that I will have to spend another 80 hours of my life playing a Xenoblade game. I'll try to get a full review up before the year is done, but that's a tall order to ask for an 80-hour RPG. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And stay tuned for the next episode of The Z-Man Show. Take care, everybody. What up, everybody? Welcome to the latest episode of The Z-Man Show. Now, last year, if you had asked me what my most anticipated games of 2017 were, you were probably going to hear me talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And last year it came out, but I didn't have quite enough time to get around to doing a full review of it last year. It did show up on my Game of the Year awards, scoring a respectable 8th place. So today, I want to talk about more in depth about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and why it's a really good game, with a few caveats. So with that in mind, let's get the show rolling. Onward to Elysium! Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a game that really isn't inviting. This is through and through a JRPG for fans of JRPGs. If you're really put off by a lot of these mechanics, I could see why so many people stopped their gameplay so early on before they really got into Xenoblade Chronicles 2. What really contributes to this is how complex Xenoblade Chronicles 2 systems are. I'm mostly talking about the combat and how you develop cities within the game. And I'm not saying that the previous two games were any less complex, but I feel like those issues are more exacerbated here in 2. But if you really stick with 2, if you really learn its mechanics inside and out, you will find a very rewarding and fun RPG for your Nintendo Switch. Your time in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 will be spent doing two things, either exploring, doing main and side quests in the main world of Alrest, and fighting, killing many innocent and not so innocent monsters. Let's talk about the exploring first. The world of Alrest is huge. Much like the first Xenoblade game, there are many areas to explore, each with their own bad guys to kill, shops to buy from, and side quests to do. And the more you help out a town, the development level goes up, offering even better equipment to buy and more side missions to do. So it is in your best interest to pause the main story from time to time and just explore the world and breathe and just see what Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and this world of Alrest has to offer for you. Fast traveling costs nothing, so go nuts. I will say side quests can get kind of annoying from time to time with what I call one more thing style of missions. You do one thing and these people want something else done. Do that thing, and oh no, their son is missing or something else stupid. No wonder the world of Alrest is going under. No one in the fucking town can wipe their ass without someone there to clean off the dingleberries. What makes the world of Alrest so fun to explore is how beautiful it is. Every area, every region has their own character that is told through visuals, and the music just enhances the mood tenfold. But what good is all this exploring without some bad guys to smash? The combat in 2 is different from previous games. And remember kids, different does not mean bad. Different is different. And the combat in 2 is really good. It takes a bit of time to get used to. One, your characters have to stand still to auto-attack, and that's how you build up the meter to use your arts. With me so far? Then you use those arts to build up your elemental arts. And if you do the right combination of elemental arts, you can do huge damage to bad guys. But we're not done there. Once you fill up the talent gauge, that's the gauge on the top left-hand corner of the screen, you can activate chain combos, and then you can do elemental burst for huge damage. And if you do things right, if you set up everything just right, you can do huge damage, and even the final bosses of the game won't be able to stand to your massive amounts of combo potential. So it does take a bit of time to get used to, and it does take a lot of trial and error to figure out which combinations work the best to get the most optimal combos. But when you figure it out, taking down these big bosses with one nice placed combo chain is very satisfying. Even more so than anything I did in Xenoblade Chronicles 1 or X. Though there will be times where your party will get one-shot by bosses of equal or even lower leveling than you, and you won't know why you're getting your shit pushed in. So sometimes you have to go in and mess with their blades. The blades are your new weapons this time around. Think of stands from JoJo's, but they have their own personalities and they're physical beings on their own. So through a bit of trial and error, you could basically take out any boss in the game, and when you take out those annoying bosses, oh man, you're gonna feel like you're on the top of the world, my man. Having said all that though, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a game made out of very, very, very little annoyances. I can see why people gave up the game so early. The plot doesn't really get too interesting until around chapter 5, and the combat is pretty unintuitive until you learn about combos, and even then, getting those massive combos take proper setups, which takes a lot of trial and error in my experience. Something that is missing from the previous games is cosmetics for your main characters, which is a huge letdown, especially because in Xenoblade Chronicles X you had fashion cosmetics that didn't affect your stats, but just made you look damn cool while you kill monsters and aliens and monster aliens. And speaking of things that were worse from the previous two games, the voice acting, at least for the English version, is just not that good. I'm not sure if it was due to the voice acting strike or they wanted to use maybe lesser known talents, but some of these voices are very grating, even if they do have some really emotional performances. Like really, did no one sit down and think, hey, Tora is saying meh 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 for the 100th fucking time in battle, that won't get annoying, will it? No, just leave it in. And what the fuck is Nia saying right here? And seriously, Nintendo, you couldn't have spent the $50 and the coupon to Chili's to get Bryce Papenbooker's Rex? Hey, granted, Rex's VA really grew on me after a while, but still. There's a few technical issues here and there, like there was some popping after the fast travel, and there are frame rate drops in the middle of battle and in the cities when there's a lot of stuff happening on screen, and the audio pops from time to time too. It makes me worry about the Switch a little if it can't handle these bigger titles as easily as the PS4 Xbox One can. And finally, I think the biggest flaw of this game is the menu fucking. You're gonna have to go into the pause menu a lot to set your blades, customize your characters, check your side missions, check your merc missions, and go fast travel and save. It's really annoying, and I feel like it breaks the flow too much. I wish there was a way to maybe, have preset blade combinations or something else, but the UI definitely needed some work on before the game came out, because it's not fun hitting the pause button all the time. It really isn't that fun. Despite those faults, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 makes some much needed improvements over its predecessors. The art style is fantastic and leads to more emotive characters instead of the dead eyes we had in the first two titles. And indeed, the game is stunning to look at, and it runs mostly smooth outside of the aforementioned technical issues. And the side quests, despite the one more thing nature of them, are paced better and they don't throw a million at you at once. And it also helps that each character that is requesting your assistance, they have a name, they have a purpose, better than just, soldier number 3 from fucking colony number 9 from Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Additionally, side quests have more benefit besides just EXP or gold. You actually need them to develop your cities and gain more stuff in the cities, like better weapons and so on and so forth. This game is way better about griefing you a lot less than the previous two titles. Other than a random level 92 T-Rex in the opening world, I felt pretty well equipped to take on just about any challenge Alras had to throw at me and my adventures of Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And of course, like I mentioned, the combat, once you master it, gives you a huge rush, and it's so satisfying to take out these big baddies. And most importantly, the Nopon are no longer the unlikable, incompetent boobs they were in Xenoblade Chronicles X. Shouts to Tora being actually worthwhile, but ran outs to him for going meh meh meh. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a game that is not for everybody. It will frustrate you at times and really test your patience early on, but for those willing to put in the time, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a rewarding experience and one of the richest the Switch has to offer so far. I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a very solid game. It's a very fun game if you give it the chance to really show its true colors to you. But at the same time, though, I will say it isn't quite as good as its predecessors like Xenoblade Chronicles X or Xenoblade Chronicles 1 on the Wii. But that said, though, it is a very solid game. But if you're not into JRPGs, it's not going to cause an epiphany for you. That's why my final verdict on Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is an 8 out of 10. A very respectable game, very fun game, but like I said, you just really need to give it a chance before it can really show its true colors for you. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It's pretty good. 8th best game of the year, according to me. And that's the only opinion you need to know. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Z-Man Show. Later, everybody. Xenoblade Chronicles has gone from a niche RPG that barely got released in the States to one of Nintendo's more popular series, with several sequels and spin-offs being released in around a 10-year window. I've noticed a lot of Nintendo fans, mostly Nintendo tubers, being pretty mixed on the series for whatever reason, but for me, I love Xenoblade. I've cleared all the games, and I got my copy of 3 on pre-order. With the 3rd game releasing soon, I thought it would be fitting to go over the series. I'll be talking about the history of Monolith Soft, looking at each game in the series, and putting together the pieces of what I think will happen in Xenoblade Chronicles 3. There might be some visual spoilers here because I am playing a few of these games in the post-game mode, but I'll try to keep it as spoiler-free as possible. There's a lot to talk about here, so we'll get right into it. Before we set forth on this epic journey, it would be helpful if you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. With that out of the way, let's begin. I'm really feeling it. I also want to give a shout out to my friends over at Meepon. If you're interested in anime, Japanese culture, or even working in the anime or gaming industry, give them a follow. I'll leave a link in the description and put a card up as well. Monolith Soft is a name that many are familiar with these days, thanks to how huge the Xenoblade series has gotten and the fact they are owned by Nintendo. They actually have quite an interesting history that I covered way back in a video from 2017. Look at that handsome bastard. If you don't feel like watching that bit of cringe from way back when, let me fill you in again. Monolith Soft started after Tetsuya Takahashi left Square Soft after the release of Xenogears on the PlayStation 1. Xenogears actually started as a script for a Final Fantasy title, but Square wisely decided that it was too dark for a Final Fantasy game, but thought it was good enough to be its own title. Xenogears was released in 1998 and was a critical and commercial success. While considered to be a solid game, it shows its production scars with a second disc that is basically one giant cutscene with a bit of good old PlayStation 1 nudity. I've cranked my hog to some desperate stuff before, but this is too degenerate, even for me. Gears had a difficult development process, with an inexperienced team, using new technology, a strict deadline, and a localization effort done by one dude. Rough development is a staple when it comes to the Xeno meta series. Despite being a modest hit, Takahashi left Square to start Monolith Soft with Namco founder Masaya Nakamura. Under Namco, Monolith would make a new series carrying the Xeno label, Xenosaga. Plans for the series were big. It was basically going to be Star Wars plus anime, which spells awesome. While the first game in the series was a critical and commercial success, the second game changed the art and gameplay and suffered weaker sales. The big plans for the Xenosaga series were cut due to Episode 2's poor sales and Bandai and Namco fusing together to make Bandai Namco, which also screwed over other titles at the time such as Pac-Man World 3. Pour one out for Pac-Man.
Pac-Man thirsty, Pac-Man drink strong. Rawr.
Thankfully, Monolith was able to end the series on a high note with Xenosaga Episode 3, which wrapped up the story and fixed the gameplay. There was also a remake of sorts of Xenosaga 1 and 2 on the DS in Japan, but that's where the Xenosaga ended, other than the odd cameo of Cosmos here and there. Supposedly, Tekken series producer Katsuhiro Harada is a huge Xenosaga fan and pushed for a remake of the Xenosaga, but Namco decided to be a bunch of killjoys and said no.
Stop and sit the head down! And don't ask me for shit.
I also can't do a recap of Monolith Soft and not mention some of their other titles like Namco Cross Capcom and Soma Ringer, both of which I really want to play but neither got exported. And of course there's the Baten Kaitos duology on the GameCube, which I've played and is pretty solid. I'm really hoping that the Baten Kaitos games get ported because they're so weird I want other people to experience them. After a bit of legal wrangling, Nintendo ended up buying a majority share of Monolith Soft and became a second party to Nintendo. Monolith helped out with major titles such as Super Smash Bros. Brawl, but they wanted something more. Monolith set out to make a game that was so epic in every sense of the word, a game that would become legendary, and that game was Disaster Day of Crisis.
Their name is Surge.
Surge. Never heard of him.
And Xenoblade Chronicles. So there's your history lesson on Monolith Soft, and I hope you enjoyed that. To me, they have a very interesting history, but ultimately, I'm very happy that Nintendo owns Monolith Soft these days. I would hate to see their talent being put to waste on games, you know, like those random anime fighters Bandai Namco likes to publish, but no one plays after a month. But hey, we avoided that future, so that's good. But I know why you're really here. You want me to talk about all the Xenoblade games, and that's something I want to do. So I have all the Xenoblade games here, and well, let's just take a look at all of them, starting with the first game in the series. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was originally released in Japan in 2010 and Europe in 2011. Despite the game being done and having a full English translation ready to go, Nintendo of America wasn't interested in publishing the game stateside. It took the efforts of Operation Rainfall to bring the game to the States, along with other late-release Wii RPGs, Pandora's Tower and The Last Story. With a ton of fan support, Operation Rainfall was a rousing success. While XC picked up the tab for the latter two, Nintendo published Xenoblade themselves. Only to GameStop. Man, GameStop sucked. It was cool back then when I was younger, and getting dirt cheap Wii and GameCube games was pretty sick, but man, did they give you crap for selling games to them. Oh, and they did that thing where they crack open new copies of a game and sell it as used for insane prices. Real classy there, jerks. I remember one GameStop in the mall in Albuquerque having a copy of Xenoblade Chronicles for about $100 back in 2014. When I came back from my study abroad in Japan in summer of 2015, that same copy of Xenoblade was still there. I managed to play the Wii version thanks to a friend who was kind enough to let us play his Wii U in the common area in the dorm I was staying at in Kyoto, and eventually I got my own copy for the Wii later in 2015, thanks to Amazon selling region-free copies of it for about $40, and that worked on the Wii U. Xenoblade also got a re-release on the 3DS, which only worked on the new models of 3DS, which aren't exactly new these days. I don't own the 3DS version of Xenoblade, but I'm sure it's fine. While I have my Wii version, I largely abandoned it for the remake on the Switch, Definitive Edition. It was released in 2020 and is the way to play Xenoblade Chronicles 1 these days. It looks better, has some massive quality of life improvements, and has the ability to be played while you're pooping. Always a positive. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is definitely a unique game from Nintendo. Unlike other Nintendo titles where plot is usually passed out drunk in the back seat while gameplay drives the car, and the art style picks the music, the plot is heavily integral to Xenoblade. The plot goes a little like this. 2 Titans collide in battle, and a war broke out between the Homs, which I'm gonna call humans just to piss off Xenoblade fans, and the Mechon, which are robots. The main hero, Shulk Hogan, is doing research on the red blade known as the Monado when his colony is attacked by the Mechon. A tragedy happens, and Shulk and the greatest fictional character of all time, Ryan, set off to take the fight to the Mechon. And of course, many twists and turns happen on this epic 80-hour-plus adventure. One thing I have to give Xenoblade Chronicles 1 credit for is that the main party is very likable. Probably one of my favorite main parties since Final Fantasy X. Dunban is an excellent mentor who gets amazingly extra in battle. Ricky is cute and gets some funny lines. Melia has had a crap life dealt to her, but she pulls through for her country and her friends. And Charla, well, Charla sucks in gameplay, but she's fiending for some Ryan cock. By the end of the game, everybody goes through development and they all avoid those annoying cliches of the falling out or the traitor tropes. The bad guys are also really cool too, with Metalface in particular being deliciously hammy. Aiding this is the excellent voice acting. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 was localized in Europe, and they went for British voice acting.
I'm gonna put the skitties in your Alan Wickers, you plonker!
Do you know what he's saying?
And instead of incoherent cockneys, they got people who could actually act. Adam Howden as Shulk really stands out in the game's more emotional moments. Rufus Jones as Dunban also stands out for how dramatic he is. Well done, Jones and Howden, you did the Queen and Manchester United proud. With that said, some of the side characters really don't sound that good.
Where are you two heading? If you've got time, you should come back to our camp.
Juju, you are literally worse than a fire made out of racism and are as useful as a paper cup filled with gasoline and cum to put out the fire made out of racism. If you got Ian and Gar planes early on in the game, it would have made the game and the universe a better place. Xenoblade Chronicles felt like a huge breath of fresh air for the JRPG genre back in 2012. JRPGs during that generation were often criticized for being too linear, too obtuse, and being too, anime for the honkies. Then Xenoblade came along and did the opposite. The Bionis and the Mechonis are two huge worlds to explore, with areas within areas within areas. The Bionis Anus, and now that was a fun level. Some areas are a bit hard to maneuver around, and there are some particularly annoying bad guys who will harass and one-shot you, but that's easy to forgive when you see these lush and detailed environments firsthand. The combat ignores turn-based combat in favor of active time combat, which is often compared to Final Fantasy XII. The main difference is Shulk is infinitely better than come in a can van. You move around your opponents, make sure your team is buffed up, make sure the tank is drawing aggro, and then you build up enough power to unleash a chained attack and just lay waste to your opponents. It's quite a rush whenever you fell a giant beast or mech in Xenoblade Chronicles 1. As a kid, I could never get into turn-based combat, but Xenoblade's fast pace and involvement made me feel more engaged than other RPGs I played beforehand. And while I've been lavishing Xenoblade 1 with praise so far, there are some annoyances with this title that bled into other games. For one, Xenoblade has a lot going on. Between world building and combat, it can get confusing. Second, there is this enemy buff called Spike, which is one of the most annoying enemy buffs ever. All it is when you hit your enemy, they deal damage to you just for existing. It's like punching someone out cold, but you break your arm in the process. Third, there's a bit too much walking. There is a fast travel option, and you do get waypoints often, but for how big these environments are, getting a horse or a Zamboni would have been appreciated. Fourth, the side quests suck. All they are is busy work, either collecting something or killing X amount of something. And there's a lot of side quests. It's easy just to want to do all the side quests as soon as they are available, but it gets boring just running around all day doing other people's chores. And lastly, the game goes on for a bit too long. There's a good stopping point around the 60-hour mark in this game, and they could have wrapped things up there, but then the game just kept going on for another 20 hours with some extremely annoying areas and bosses to fight. Thankfully, cutting up the final boss with the Monado is very satisfying. Despite my gripes with Xenoblade Chronicles 1, the good far outweighs the bad here. Xenoblade Chronicles is an epic in every sense of the word. It deserves the praise it gets and more, and is not only one of Nintendo's best games, but one of the best games, period. So there's my look at Xenoblade Chronicles 1, and I have to say this game is still fantastic. I haven't played it in a hot minute, but playing again on the Switch made me realize that, damn, this game is truly something special, and a game that is definitely worthy of all the praise that it gets. And I'm also happy that this game has a larger fan base these days, thanks to it being on the Switch, thanks to the 3DS port, thanks to Shulk being in Smash Bros, and thanks to it not being only sold at GameStop. If it was only being sold at GameStop these days, it'd probably be an NFT because GameStop is, well, kinda desperate for money. With Xenoblade 1's sleeper success, it'd be natural that we would get more games in the Xenoblade series, and we would get a new title on the Wii U. Xenoblade Chronicles X was announced for the Wii U in 2013, just called, well, X. It eventually became a Xenoblade title as Xenoblade Chronicles X. Not a sequel to the first title, but a thematic sequel of sorts. Gone is the planet Bionis, now we're on the hostile and alien world known as Mira. An alien war has devastated the Earth, and the remaining humans fled the Earth to the planet Mira, where they must work together to survive. And much like the first game, things aren't what they seem. X released in 2015 to a polarizing reception from fans. While critically it did well, and it sold as well as any late-release Wii U title could, players of the first title are split. Some like the changes to the setting and the gameplay, others think that it barely resembles a Xenoblade game at all. So why is that? Well, let's hop in the scale and fly right in. As mentioned before, X is all about the human race surviving on Mira. It's a simple setup that works for the kind of game X is. It's all about the world, not so much the characters. That's why in this game you can make an original character. See that? That's what Z-Man will look like in the future. Your character, named Rook, wakes up from a stasis pod to be greeted by the mysterious Babe Elma, voiced by Caitlin Glass, and gets recruited into Blade, the force that is tasked to explore Mira and keep the man-made city of New LA safe from harm. And with that, we are off to explore this extremely dense but hostile world known as Mira. It's still safer than a walk down Zuni in Albuquerque. To be blunt, the plot in X is mid at best. It's a basic setup, but that doesn't mean there aren't interesting things to see here. As you explore Mira and do missions, more alien life forms move into New LA, bringing their own culture and customs to the human race. You do learn more about what happened to the human race in between the destruction of Earth and when Rook awakened. Plus, the planet itself has a lot of character. There's 5 major biomes, each with their own climate, flora, and fauna. You can just hang out somewhere and watch how life on the planet is, in between getting ambushed and getting one-shot by some horrible abomination that is. On the flip side, there aren't a lot of strong characters in this game. I do think Elmo's cool, and some of the other recruitable blades you can get are pretty interesting, but for the most part, a lot of the characters are just kind of forgettable. Also, there are a lot of really cool and really unique concepts that are introduced in X, but have very poor payoffs. You'll end the game with more questions than you did at the start of the game. Side quests are still a weak point, but not quite as annoying as 1. Yes, there is a ton of busy work, but it's stuff that would be happening naturally by just playing the game. There's more developmental stories with characters in New LA that give the game some character, which is nice. I thought of the side quests and stories as little challenges I could do while cruising around naturally in a mech, blasting some J-pop. And it goes without saying, the music slaps. It's composed by Hiroyuki Sawano, and every song on the OST is an absolute knee slapper, even the cheesy rap segments. Actually, especially the cheesy rap segments. Still, just running around the planet of Mira is quite fun. Despite only having 5 major areas plus the hub town, each area is as dense as any area from 1. And from the word go, you can go anywhere on the planet until a horrible beast eliminates you. While traversing on foot is possible, it's best to wait until you get your skill, the special mechs that can cruise around the planet and eventually fly around in. But I do agree with the biggest criticism of this game is that the beginning of this game is quite slow. The first 3 chapters of X are just info dumps, and then you do a bunch of running around until you can get your mech. And at that point, that's when the game really opens up. So that's my advice if you get X, stay with it. It's definitely worth the payoff. As for the gameplay, it's as deep as ever. This time you get a 4 party member system which only expands your strategies, and you can obtain the giant robots called scales which only adds more power to your arsenal. Sometimes you need mechs to take out huge bad guys, or you need to get on foot to traverse the many caves and hidden passages in Mira. And unlike the first title, your characters reach their max level at 60, forcing you to change your loadouts and strategies in order to take out the horrible abominations that exist in Mira. It's very tempting to max out all the character classes and your bonus characters just to find that perfect strategy for you. There's a lot of customization and variabilities you have here in X, and it's definitely the strongest point of this game. While I think for Xenoblade fans, X was a bit of a mixed bag. Everybody agrees the graphics, presentation, and gameplay are up to snuff, but the plot and setting are seriously lacking. But to me personally, this checks off everything I wanted from an RPG. You have customization, sci-fi which I love, a killer soundtrack, and gameplay that was endlessly fun, and giant robots. You know who digs giant robots? Chicks do. That's why Xenoblade Chronicles X is my favorite game in the Xenoblade series, and one of my personal favorite games ever. I really do mean that. Xenoblade Chronicles X is seriously one of my favorite games of all time, better than the first game, and it just feels like Xenoblade Chronicles X was a title that was just made for me. It hits everything I like in a video game. You have sci-fi, you have giant robots, you have rapping in the battle theme, you have customization, you have blue-haired anime waifus. Everything you could want in a game and more. It's kind of like the enigma of Amigara Fault. This game was just made for me. I really do feel like if you could find a Wii U these days, Xenoblade Chronicles X is worth it, but again, good luck finding a copy these days. Still holding out for the Switch port. Speaking of the Nintendo Switch, we would get the next game in the Xenoblade series very soon after Xenoblade Chronicles X.
俺は君のために楽園に行く。
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was announced at the same time as the Switch, for release in December 2017. Quite the fast turnaround time when X was only released 2 years prior, and some of Monolith's staff working on Breath of the Wild. 2 was more of a direct sequel to 1, which was a bit of a disappointment to me, considering my love of X and how many cliffhangers that title had. Regardless, I was hype. I got the collector's set, I got the controller that got the drift, and set forth on another monolithic epic. I reviewed this title way back when it was new, and I was pretty positive on it, but it's been about 5 years since, so let's see how my opinions have changed on this title. Let's dive right in and take a look. 2 takes place in the land of Allrest, where people live on giants among the clouds. You play as a young man named Rex, voiced by Al Weaver, as he is recruited to help find a special item known as the Aegis. Rex gets backstabbed and is brought back to life by a very attractive woman known as Pyra, voiced by Sky Bennett. She brings Rex back to life as they set forth on a quest to find a land called Elysium.
Now place your hand on my chest.
Girl, put your hand down my pants, and I'll bet you'll feel nuts. Yes, I'm Siskel, yes, I'm Ebert, and I'm giving 2 thumbs up. Needless to say, things get complicated from there. Now, 2 has become a very polarizing game over the years, even more so than X. There are some people who really love 2, and there are other people who absolutely hate the title. So I'll break it down from the good, to the bad, to the mixed. For the good, well, just look at it. Xenoblade games have always pushed the hardware, and 2 is no exception. The environments are as huge and as gorgeous as ever. Plus they are designed in a way that have plenty to see, but always guide the player on the right path to continue the story. Plus the world taking place in the sky is so badass. It reminds me of one of my favorite games ever, Skies of Arcadia, and that's a plus. Also, the characters show far more expression in this game. I know not everybody was on board for the anime look, but it does mean people are far more emotive than in 1 or X. The combat is as deep and as satisfying as ever, especially when you chain a grip of attacks together and do absurd damage. Finally, the Aegis are great characters. Pyra and Mithra are very likable and go through a good amount of character development by endgame, and their interactions with Rex are cute. Rex gets 2 big titty waifus and I hope he gets smothered every night. And the main bad guys, Torna, are cool as hell. They are all designed by Tetsuya Nomura, so that means Xenoblade 2 will have some connection with Kingdom Hearts. In particular, the main bad guy Malos, voiced by David Menken, has a really cool story and is a perfect rival to Pyra and Mithra. His partner Jin, voiced by John Schwab, is also badass and always gives you a run for your money whenever you fight him. Jin is so cool they made a whole spin-off for him. For the bad, the big one for me is the UI. It is absolutely terrible. You're constantly fiddling around with the menu, doing merc missions, checking your affinity trees, and swapping out blades all the time. Often in the world you'll see some treasures or hidden paths that require some field skills to get past, which is fine, but you have to keep going through and editing your whole team just to do the field skills, then swap back to whatever your team was. Also, the map is terrible. Unlike the 3D map from 1 or the guiding ball from X, you get this flat map where it's hard to tell where to go or what level things are on. Also, the gacha system is absolutely anus. Your weapons are these things called blades that you get from cracking open a cube and hope you get someone good. There's a ton of sick looking blades, but more than likely you'll be rolling the generic ones that no one ever uses until you farm a ton of cubes and just burn them all at once until you get a cool rare blade. And that's how I got Cosmos early on in the game. And I'm glad that Nintendo published Xenoblade Chronicles 2, because I feel like someone like Cygames or Namco or EA would have microtransaction this game to hell and back. I personally didn't have much luck with rolls. I just armed my team with whatever rare blades I got and hope for the best. And while a lot of the rare blades can look cool, some of them are just pretty weird looking. Monolith was short-staffed when they made 2, and they had guest artists make blades, which meant a lot of horny Japanese dudes making waifus. Whether they're furry, goth, rich, or Lolita, aka you're going to jail, there's plenty of jerk-off material for everybody. And while Torna is cool, the other main bad guy sucks. It's this priest dude who might as well just say I'm evil on his stupid fucking hat. This dude sucks. I legit forgot about him until I combed through the cutscenes. Your mom's biggest failure was failing to kill you as a child. Now for the mixed. To me, the plot isn't as good as 1 or X. 1 has a basic setup, tragedy hits and you're out for revenge. In X, you're on a new planet trying to survive. In 2, you're trying to reach Elysium and Torna is on your ass. That's fine. Then you meet the priest dude and the main characters are basically out of focus besides the Aegis and Rex is only there because Mithra likes twinks. I honestly checked out of the plot by the 50th hour and I just was there to fight bigger bad guys. I think the main problem with the plot is that the main party just isn't that interesting. Okay, Pyra and Mithra are cool and do drive the plot along, that's great. Morag is really cool, and who could forget the one-eyed, one-nut wonder Zeke, justice in the streets and comes in his sheets. I like them both, but neither really add anything to the story. And the rest of the party is... Tora is a Nopon who made his own blade because he has a maid fetish. While generally friendly, his voice is annoying, and he is limited gameplay-wise until endgame. He has a super broken third form of his blade, but you don't get that until the end of the game, so until then I just basically benched him for my entire playthrough. Nia also has an annoying voice, but she also has an interesting backstory, but they really don't do anything with it besides, like, yeah, that's kinda cool. We still gotta save Pyra and her massive knockers. Plus, Nia isn't even that hot. People seriously come to this chick? Then there's Rex, and jeez, this dude sucks. So much of the game is spent on him, but he barely has anything to do with the main plot besides being the driver for the Aegis. He's about as interesting as a stack of chairs in the corner of your classroom. He is the shonen hero played absolutely straight with nothing unique to him besides his trash fit that Link couldn't even make cool. He's often compared to Sora and Pit, but he's nowhere near as memorable as either. He doesn't have Sora's determinism or willingness to use lethal force, nor Pit's lovable idiocy and extremely focused mindset. Rex is just kind of there, but at the same time they put way too much focus on him on the story. What I'm trying to say is there's a reason why he got skipped over for Smash Ultimates. Also, compared to 1 and X, the English dub in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is rough, to say the least. They didn't get the veteran talent they had for 1 or X, and they didn't have really good voice direction. Supposedly, the actors weren't given much, if any, context for what was happening, and for the most part, they only had one take, which explains the poor voice acting. Thankfully, by the end of the game, the actors seem to get a fit for their characters and do sound good, even if I feel Nia and Tora are hella annoying. In general, 2 had a rough production. A lot of Monolith staff was working on Breath of the Wild, so not all hands were on deck for 2, which would explain some of the more annoying aspects of 2's design. As I said earlier, the blades were done by guest artists with little input from Monolith, leading to some contrast. With all that said, 2 isn't a bad game, far from it. I think it's good. It just had a lot to live up to when following up the excellent 1 and X. I know a lot of people got into RPGs through 2, so I understand if it's your favorite, but to me, it's a good game, but one game I left wanting more. So there's my look at Xenoblade Chronicles 2 finished, and I have to say this game is good. The good points are really good, but the low points really drag it down. I feel like 1 and X are more solid and consistent experiences overall, but 2 is still very enjoyable. It's just not as consistent as the other games in the series, but I think that's reflective of the game's rough development process. But I do understand why it's a lot of people's favorite game in the Xenoblade series, because it was an early game in the Switch's life and it did sell a lot of units at the time. Or maybe everyone's just horny for Pyrite Mithra, I don't know. I know I am. But we still have one more little game to look at here with Torna, the Golden Country. And finally, the last game in the series released so far, Torna, the Golden Country. This is a prequel expansion to Xenoblade 2 that focuses on Jin and his story, how he got into Malice's hands, and how the plot of 2 came to be, essentially. The main squad is Jin and his driver Laura, voiced by Anna Koval. Both of them are on the run and learning how to work together as a duo. They eventually team up with Mithra and her driver Adam, the Prince of Torna, voiced by Paul Thorney, as it describes their involvement in the Blade War that happened 500 years prior to the events of 2. Torna is a smaller game than others, clocking in at about 20 hours, which is nice because I have other things to do with my time. Torna goes out of its way to fix many issues people had with 2. For one, the voice acting is much better. Second, the combat is better explained and ignores the gacha stuff that blighted base 2. Third, no Rex, no Nia, and no Tora. Good stuff there. Laura is nice and has more involvement with the plot, even though at the end of the day she's just a living MacGuffin for Jin, which kinda doesn't sit well with me, but whatever. Despite Torna being a shorter game, that doesn't mean it isn't as dense as other Xenoblade games. There's still a deep combat system with a ton of options at your disposal, lots of bad guys to fight and quests to do, and maybe they indulge that a bit too much. At a certain point in Torna, in order to progress, you have to build up the community level to some of the towns, which means doing a bunch of side quests. Depending on how side quest heavy you were throughout the game, it's either a minor annoyance or a huge pain in the ass. Side quests aren't optional if I have to do them to progress the story, god damn it. But that's my only complaint about Torna. It's 2 without the fat and with a clear goal in mind. I've seen arguments about which is the best Xenoblade game, and it isn't uncommon to say that Torna is the best. At the very least, it didn't take 80 hours out of my life, which is a positive. So that's my look at the Xenoblade series finished, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I know I did, even though that was a lot of game to cover. I have to give Monolith props for making such consistent and big and enjoyable games. Each game is very well thought out and is very fun. For me, I find it hard to complete games these days because they are so long and they do get so repetitive at certain points in them. But Xenoblade Chronicles always managed to keep me hooked and see through the end, and that's really impressive because, again, almost all these games do run about 80 hours in runtime. With the past behind us, it's now time to look towards the future with Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and now we're getting to some spoiler talk and game theory. And who doesn't love game theory? That's the only reason why I can see people enjoying a Matt Pat video. So here's your warning. Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning. If you don't want to get spoiled for the previous Xenoblade games, go to this time in the video, or just use the chapter select in the bar on the bottom of the screen. Anyway, let's get into it. And just a heads up for this section, I don't have access to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and I'm only going off of what I've seen in trailers and read online, so I could be totally off the mark, but hey, this is just fan theory. Anyway, let's get into it. The universe of Xenoblade was made in a science experiment gone wrong, where a scientist named Klaus ended up creating two worlds. The worlds of the Bionis and the Mechonis in one, and all rest from two. Linking the two universes together is Klaus, known as the Architect. He was split into two halves. His benevolent half formed Alrest, and the evil half formed Zanza and caused the conflict of the Homs versus the Mechon. The events of 1 and 2 happened simultaneously, so when Shulk defeats Zanza, the Architect passes on, giving the land of Alrest a parting gift for Rex and Pyra and Mithra, restoring his faith. However, in the Bionis, a mysterious figure known as the Fog King showed up and is a giant Fog King asshole. While it's not explained where it came from, my theory is that the death of Klaus caused the Fog King to show up. It's said that 3 takes place in the future of 1 and 2, so my guess is the worlds of the Bionis and Alrest fused together, and the Fog King is the result of the two worlds starting to merge. It's basically stated that the Queen of Kiev is Melia, and the Queen of Agnes is Nia. Imagine being so salty that you got cucked by Rex you decided to wage a war. That sounds like a song Viper the rapper would make. My theory is that corruption from the Fog King, as well as influence from the mysterious Consul, are pulling the strings and are the reasons why their heroic Melia and Nia are at war. Or maybe it's those fancy masks they are wearing. Always verify your BDSM goods before you buy, kids. Don't want to start a war over a shit gimp mask. Now, assuming the story is what happens when the worlds collide like the Power Man 5000 song from Tony Hawk 2, how would Xenoblade X play into the story? My theory is that the fusion of the Bionis and Alrest starts to form its own identity and becomes the living planet known as Mira. Mira is a messed up place. It created superfauna to erase the sentient life, but kept their information like languages and memories, which is how alien life forms living on Mira can communicate with each other, but for some reason they can't leave the planet. Mira itself feeds off knowledge, kind of like the brains from Futurama. So long story short, Fry is going to save the Xenoblade universe, which, given how insane the Xenoblade series can get, that doesn't sound outside the realm of possibility. So that's the complete history of Xenoblade Chronicles, and Monolith Soft finished, and I hope you enjoyed it. This was a lot of info to go over, and I hope it got you up to speed for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. All that's left now is just to wait for the game to come out and hope I don't get spoiled, because it's like one of the few things I will actually get mad about if I'm spoiled. So please don't post any spoilers in the comments, don't be a jerk. For me, the question is, what is Monolith's next project after Xenoblade 3? I personally would like to see him take on another Nintendo franchise, like Kid Icarus, or maybe make a new Project Cross Zone game. Those are really fun. But let me know down there in the comments, what's your favorite Xenoblade game? Are you looking forward to Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Who's your Xenoblade waifu? Let me know all that in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. Follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram at ZMangs, and with that, I will see you in the next video. Later, everybody. Take care. Stay cool. At last, after 86 hours, my work is complete. I can finally move on in life. Of all the releases in 2022, this was the game I was the most excited about and have the most to say. I'm a bit late to the party when it comes to reviewing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but hey, I like to take things at my pace. At least that's what I put on my online dating profiles. There's a lot to go over, so subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos, and let's get right into it.
If you miss the dot, you get this irritating voice.
Yippee!
If you get the dot,
Yippee!
you get the irritating voice.
Yippee!
And it never stops.
Yippee! Yippee! Yippee!
Monolith seems like they took a lot of the criticisms of 2 to heart, and it wouldn't surprise me if they made a list of all the bad ideas they had for both story and gameplay they had in 2 and just said,
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it! Fix it, fix it, fix it!
As a result, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is an overwhelmingly better game than 2. If you couldn't enjoy that title, I would still say give 3 a chance. The plots of the worlds of the Bionis and Alrest fuse together, creating the land of Ionios. In this world, the Kevez and Agnes fractions are fighting each other in an endless war. You take control of a special forces unit from Kevez and go on a special operation. However, you fight a special Agnian forces unit, and in a moment of desperation, a mysterious man named Guernica releases a stone that allows the heroes to transform into the Ouroboros, which will be the key in destroying the evil Mobius, stopping the Kevesi and Agnes war, and putting it into shitty Morbius jokes once and for all. And like previous Xenoblade games, things get very complicated, but no spoilers for now. 3 does take a bit of time to pick up. As you might have heard, there are a lot of tutorials. Almost too many. They pop up, make you stop whatever you are doing just to tell you how to wear a hoodie, and then go back to the game. I think I skipped that tutorial. And they don't stop until about 6 hours in, kind of overcompensating for the bad tutorials in previous Xenoblade games. Also, while you start with the 3 main characters from Kevez plus their buddy Mwamba, which sounds like a sexy disease, you don't get all the cool transformation stuff or fusion arts or chin attacks until later on. Plus, you constantly get dogged by low-level enemies early on. Just push through. Once you hit the first couple of colonies, the world massively opens up and becomes the Xenoblade game you know and love. Or hate if you're a Nintendo YouTuber or donkey. The main characters are very likable and each gets a good amount of focus. Noah is the star of the show and is a generally likable dude who wants to rid the world of war, even if his design and pacifism is basically Monolith saying, we want to make Faye again, but we don't have access to the Xenogears IP. Uni has a hilarious Cockney accent and gets some of the best lines. Lance is the lovable meathead who goes through some nice growth and also gets some good lines. Mio is like Noah and is a generally nice and friendly person. Senna is a cute girl who is always chipper and willing to bring up everyone's spirits, and Tyan tries to keep it cool but comes across as endearingly dorky. Everybody goes through a good amount of character development and actually has time to shine throughout the story. Unlike 1 where the game forgot Charlotte existed, or 2 where if your name wasn't Rex or the Aegis, you might as well not have even been in the cutscenes. Well, kind of. Senna does get shafted in her story bits, but not to the extent of other Xenoblade protagonists. Did I mention the voice acting is much better?
Oh, that's what you mean. Tell me you don't think so too.
I will say Noah is a bit of a weak protagonist. He isn't as annoying as trash-ass Rex, but I felt Noah was a bit too bland compared to the other heroes, and his pacifism was a bit misplaced in a war-torn world. Let me put it this way, in the inevitable Smash 6, I would rather have Mio, Lance, or Tyon as the playable Xenoblade 3 rep over Noah. Plus, he's just another big sword dude in a game full of big sword dudes. As you adventure through the land of Ionios, you can recruit new heroes called, well, heroes. This is the replacement of the blade system from 2 or the optional blades of X. You do a little side quests, you do a little punch-up, and then you get them in your party with a new class to boot. Sometimes heroes give you new abilities like climbing up vines or sliding down rails like it's Tony Hawk. And best of all, when you want to swap out heroes, you can just go into a menu and choose your hero, unlike X where you had to remember where everybody was, or in 2 where you had to go through the god-awful gacha system to get blades that were actually worth using. It's quite fun to mess around with classes to see what combination works best for you, even though in the endgame you're always going to have a signet for spamming buffs like you're abusing the all-you-can-drink function at an izakaya. For the record, this was my endgame setup. Combat is also a ton of fun. Much like 2, you start out with only 3 arts, but as you level up and max out your classes, you can do fusion arts, which only adds to your arsenal of totally not killing the Agnes and Kevesi forces, like for real. You can also switch between the 6 party members on the fly, which cuts out a lot of the bad AI from previous games. Also, healers are actually good in this game. In particular, the Troubadour and Signifer classes are must-have for any endgame team, thanks to the abilities of buffing up the party and keep them buffed up. Leave a comment if you kept reading it as Signifire. When things get rough, whip out the Ouroboros forms for huge damage and skill buffs. Ouroboros forms are fun to use and can really help out in a pinch, especially Uni's healing and buff abilities. And when the party really needs to turn up, chain attacks are here to do huge damage and decimate your opponents. Seriously, mastering the chain attack mechanics is key to doing fat damage in 3, even if the chain attack theme cuts to the excellent battle music, and Senna always saying, "Yippee!" which really clashes with the more serious moments. It goes without saying the graphics are outstanding. Monolith always knows how to push Nintendo systems to their limits, graphically and artistically. Maybe a bit too much because my launch Switch nearly crashed a few times while playing 3. No hard or soft crashes, thankfully, but some near misses. Unlike the much lower budget Kill, which did crash on me once. colonies are full of life, and the world of Ionios is teeming with flora and fauna that are ready to kill you at a moment's notice. I was surprised to see a breathtaking moment where you're on a boat, and see an endless waterfall at the edge of the earth, which is one of the best volume songs. The world is gorgeous, and your eyes and ears will love the Xenoblade 3 experience. Not to say Xenoblade 3 is a perfect game. While it does fix many issues of previous Xeno games, it still has some royal pains in the butt. For one, the menu theme is nice, but you spend a lot of time in there adjusting your party or quick traveling around the world. I think I heard more of the menu theme than I did the world themes. Same with the chain attack theme. Second, bonus experience is given out like blow on the Vegas Strip, so it's easy to be overleveled. Sounds nice, but it's a damn trap, as you need to be within 5 levels above or below your opponents to level up your classes, and you can't level down until New Game Plus. Third, enemies are unusually resistant to debuffs. Even going all in with gems or skills, it doesn't mean that they will stick. Any class that focuses on debuffs is basically useless. Looking at you, Machine Assassin. Also, 3 of the 5 defender classes are pretty much trash. Speaking of gems, they return. Instead of that weird crafting game where you had to pray you got awesome cores instead of crap gems, you need materials to craft. Sounds nice at first, until you learn that late game gems have absurd item requirements, and not all gems are worth it. There are some technical issues. I did say I had a few near crashes, and in the Condensia Sea and the city the framerate took a dive. And for how big the world of Ionios is, mountains would have been really appreciated. It's easier just to open the map and fast travel to where you need to be rather than walk all the way there, even if it's in the same region. Actually, you do get a mount, a boat to help navigate the sea in Chapter 5, but Christ, it handles like Otis after a Krispy Kreme and Strong Zero binge. And mapping the sea and the ship is a chore. This is what my map looks like after doing a grip of missions in the sea, and it really does look like Otis drew the map. And finally, well, it gets into spoiler territory. The last dungeon and boss go on for way longer than they need to. Now, here's the part of the video where I talk about the plot of Xenoblade 3, and there is a lot to go over. And this isn't going to be a play-by-play, just some things that I want to talk about. And of course, there is going to be spoilers, so here's your warning. Spoiler warning, spoiler warning, spoiler warning, and here we go. What I like about the Xenoblade series is that the plot always keeps you guessing. Nothing is as it seems. While some beats I called, like the Ionios being a fusion of Alrest and the Bionis, and the console being the bad guys, what I didn't expect was Guernica, a dude carrying the Van Damme mantle, being the one to set the plot in motion. He activated the Ouroboros stone and changed the 6 protagonists into the Ouroboros, then instantly kicked to the bucket. You eventually learn that humans have existed in this world undetected from Mobius for a hot minute, and have their own little society that exists outside the war and takes the main characters off guard. While most people in this city live their lives normally, there are people here who are devoted to protecting the city and ending the war, which was Guernica's goal. The main characters have only known war in their lives, so things like love or family is a foreign concept to them, so being in the city for the first time really takes them off guard. It leads to a rather heartwarming moment where Monica, Guernica's wife, leads them to seeing a newborn and the squad gets insanely giddy. Tion's reaction brought a nice smile to my face. Then the doctor asks who wants to know how babies are made, and everybody is excited to learn. And Tion got pegged the whole night. Sadly, the good times don't last. In a sting operation to get this foul-mouthed girl out of prison, a girl named Shania sells Ouroboros out to Mobius, leading to them getting overwhelmed by Mobius' M and N. Then you learn that M and N are actually Mio and Noah. Sort of. Basically, Mobius were people who forwent their humanity and became immortal Mobius who feed off the war. N and M are special because they were past incarnations of Noah and Mio, which shouldn't work as when you become Mobius, you get out of the cycle of death and rebirth that feeds Mobius. N got fed up with the cycle and went to the dark side for the sake of his lover, M, kind of like Anakin Skywalker. Hell, they even copied the opera scene from episode 3. When M and N became Mobius, whatever ideals they had were cast off and allowed Noah and Mio to be remade once again for the war. After getting defeated by M and N, the Ouroboros are captured, which leads to them being stuck in prison for a whole month, leading to easily the most heartbreaking scene of the whole game, where the team is struggling to get out of prison while Mio is separated from them. This leads to a scene where Mio is about to hit her expiration date and the squad is going to get executed. Right before the killing blow, M tells all this to Noah to get him to fight. During that sting operation, M and Mio switched bodies. It's complicated. Basically, M killed herself so that N could see the errors of his ways. Basically, N fumbled the bag so badly that his wife went towards his alternate self. Look dude, I fumbled some pretty bad bags in my time, but man, that has to be a new kind of record. You shove a boot up N's ass and the city claims the castle, all while the traitor Shania just stands there awkwardly. She kills herself, which causes more issues later on, but yeah, did no one think to restrain her during this whole thing? She thought she was going to summon a persona, but she was in the wrong game. In an earlier chapter, you find that the Queen of Kevez is actually a Doom bot, leaving this image.
That's disturbing.
There's also a scene with Consul J, actually a fallen friend of Noah, Uni, and Lance that died saving Lance coming back to life. It's played super dramatically, but it's still a chubby short kid stabbing people and it looks hilarious. Anyway, reuniting with Nia was a nice surprise. Her and Melia knew that the worlds were colliding and did their best to stop the universe from kerploding. And while I didn't like Nia in 2 all that much, I found her way more enjoyable in 3. Probably because of age and her growing up since 2. After meeting with her, you find that Zed is the main bad guy and he's hiding in Origin. While 2 and X had the issue of taking forever to start, 1 and 3 don't know when to end. While I wouldn't say the final chapter ruins 3, it's easily the weakest point of the title. You have to go on a fetch quest to reunite the 7 Nopon, and then you find the Origin shards, then you go into Origin for a long ass dungeon. And it's not a particularly interesting dungeon from a visual standpoint. And unless you did massive grinding, you will get dogged constantly by enemies. Then you fight the 2 major bad guys of consoles X and Y who go out without a cutscene. I actually thought it was a glitch, but apparently Monolith forgot to make dying cutscenes for 2 of the biggest bad guys in the game. Then you fight the big bad Zed himself, and he isn't particularly challenging. It's just a dude in a movie theater. No More Heroes did this better. Then it's just a giant head. Gee, haven't seen that a million times before. Just bring a Signifer and spam buffs and boom, just like that, Zed and Mobius is done for good. After the final battle, we learn that Ionios is splitting up into the Bionis and Alrest again, separating the heroes for who knows how long. We get a tearful goodbye, we get hints that they'll meet again soon, and then we see that photo and the game ends. It's kind of a weak ending. You think with all the hardships between all 3 games that it would end with the Ouroboros striving to make Ionios a better place. Or that stuff like the black fog that was hinted at the beginning of the game, or the fog king from Future Connected would come into play. Or even bring up Klaus again because he was the reason why this world even exists. I feel like fans won't be too happy at the ending, as it could have been something so much more. But I shouldn't dislike it for what I want it to be, I have to accept the facts. And I can at least say that it's a satisfying ending. Then there's that photo and oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here. Like, I thought this was a joke at first, like this was a Photoshop, but no, this is real. For one, Bridget, she needs more Rule 34. Second, why couldn't Rex look like that in 2 instead of Kmart Sora? Third, fucking wrap it, bro. I thought you was from Allrest, not Albuquerque. It's like someone at Monolith was like, the white boys hate Rex? We'll make them realize he's cool, I promise, I promise! And with that, the Xenoblade trilogy comes to a close.
I see you smiling there, so peacefully and cheerfully. I see you talk at me. These happy days must carry on. So once again, let's go back to that day, to where we held hand in hand.
And that's my review of Xenoblade Chronicles 3 finished, and I hope you enjoyed it. I've said this before and I'll say it again, Xenoblade Chronicles has become easily one of my favorite Nintendo franchises. And it's impressive that Monolith has managed to put out basically gold every time they make a game. Even though I didn't like 2 all that much, I can still say that it's at least far better than most games that have come out recently. And 3 is definitely definitely one game I was not disappointed with. So I guess what's left is, what's next for Monolith? I would love to see some of their other games come back, like say Baten Kaitos or Xenoblade Chronicles X to the Switch. But I would like to see them take on another Nintendo franchise, Kid Icarus. That would be pretty cool. Just saying, just throwing it out there. But anyway, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you like the video, you know what to do. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. Follow me on the social media, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at Zmings, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, everybody. Take care. Behold, the Xenoblade! Xenoblade Chronicles has become one of my favorite series from Nintendo and Monolith. And after many hours of gaming, I have finally cleared all the Xenoblade titles. With the Switch 2 out and presumably Monolith working on newer projects, I figured now would be as good as ever to rank the series from worst to best. Keep in mind, this is just my opinion as a veteran of the series since Xenoblade 1 on the Wii, all the way up to 3 and X Definitive Edition on the Switch. These are not going to be full reviews, just what I liked and did not like about each game, and I'll try to avoid major spoilers for those who haven't played these games, but there might be some visual ones. Sorry about that. And if I say a name or place incorrectly, just know it was intentional. So with that out of the way, subscribe to the channel, and let's start on this quest. Z-Man, you got some splaining to do! Some history is needed for those not familiar with the Z-Man cinematic universe. I named Xenoblade Chronicles 3 my game of the year of 2022. It was Nintendo's temple release of that year after Tears of the Kingdom got delayed. And looking back, there was not a whole lot going on in 2022 game-wise. I was super excited for the game at the time, and I put a lot of my summer towards clearing 3, which I did. While I felt amazing on the game at the time, and I felt comfortable naming it my game of the year of that year, after 2022 came and went, I realized something was missing from 3, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I have to say, there is a lot of good in 3. On a pure gameplay basis, this might be the best in the franchise. 3 fixed some of the biggest complaints about past games by giving you a full party of 6 characters early on, and now you can switch characters mid-battle. This game fights a whole new dimension that the previous games didn't. No more praying to the gods that someone would topple the bad guy when they have break applied. Or worse, your healer like Charlotte failing to do their job before a monster sneezed on her and killed her. Wouldn't Charlotte and Donald Duck be perfect for each other? Being able to control healing, buffing, attacking, whatever by switching characters mid-battle made things so much easier and dynamic. Plus, healers got some much needed quality of life improvements to make them valuable. Oh, Signifier, my beloved. And there are so many classes and extra heroes to choose from that you'll have a lot of fun playing around to see what works. And the heroes you can find are a lot of fun and really interesting and do have fun stories to tell. You do want to see what those characters have going on, and it's fun doing their stories. Granted, it's hard to convey how much fun I am having with the gameplay by looking at the footage. This game's just a UI nightmare. Oh god, help me, it's like I'm trapped in my pre-calc class from college. In terms of characters, they finally figured out how to balance screen time between the main cast. There are 6 main characters: Noah, Uni, Lance, Tyon, Mio, and Senna. All of them get a fair amount of shine and development throughout the main campaign. And they have their own ascension quests that further develop them and are worth doing because they make you stronger in battle. That said, Senna definitely pulled the short end of the stick because her side quest deals with 2 of the most annoying side characters in the game. Can't win them all, I guess. And of course, you have a high level of art design, exploration, and amazing music that you come to expect from a Monolith game. So the gameplay, presentation, and open world are all fantastic, some of the best in gaming if I'm frank. So what is missing from 3? Personality! Here's just one issue of 3's blandness. Noah himself, the main hero, is a bland, boring little twink. Compared to his teammates that have easily defined personalities and go through development, Noah was meant to be the straight man for everybody to bounce off of. That should work in theory, but in practice did not land. He's just a generic hero who wants to bang his girlfriend, not kill people, and protect his friends. He does have his quirks and flaws, like his pacifist nature and his secretly selfish behavior. The problem is that, without wishing to spoil too much, all of his flaws get dumped onto another character, which highlights how uninteresting Noah was. Thankfully, Miu exists to make up for her whack-ass boyfriend. Some say that your hero is only as interesting as their villains. The bad guys in this game, the consoles, were more misses than hits. They are named after the alphabet, so there's a lot of characters to go through, and some get more attention than others. I do think characters like K, V, and D were a lot of fun, and N, M, and J got a fair amount of screen time. The other ones don't have much to do, or are just not interesting. Two of the consoles who are near the top of the food chain honestly felt like an afterthought. In fact, one of the in-game bosses dies without any kind of cutscene. I thought it was a glitch at the time, like I defeated them in a way that skipped the cutscene, but nope, no death speech from one of the main bad guys for you. In a series that had a lot of fun and compelling villains in the past, the consoles had a legacy that they failed to live up to. And while I do give Monolith credit for balancing the main squad better, that also comes with pacing issues. Because you have to spend a certain amount of time focusing on each character, that means that the plot has to slow down for a bit while you deal with something like a friend lands failed, Uni's trauma, or Senna learning that there's no more creatine. Not to say some of the moments aren't enjoyable or emotional, it just dragged on at times. For me personally, I can remember a good chunk of what happened in previous titles that I played years before 3, but I struggle to recall the events of 3. That's a sign that 3 did something wrong in the writing department. Beyond that, the themes of the game of war is bad and both sides are unaliving each other for reasons they don't know is hammered in with the subtlety of a fat dude getting explosive diarrhea after a binge of Golden Corral. Does Golden Corral even exist anymore? The environments are pretty generic and they aren't as varied as previous Xenoblade games, and as beautiful as the music in Xenoblade is, in 3 you only hear 3 tracks the whole time: the battle theme, the chain attack theme, and the pause menu theme. And I do not feel like cluttering my phone with Nintendo's whack-ass music app just to listen to the rest of the OST. Finally, 3 is a game that does not know when to end. The Xenoblade games make sure you get bang for your buck, and 3 took me over 75 hours to clear, and boy howdy did I feel that in the final chapter. By the time you get to chapter 11, there aren't too many revelations left. It's just a fetch quest that leads to a visually uninteresting final dungeon that could have been split into 3 different parts and still feel long. It all leads up to boss battles against the main trio of bad guys that really didn't have much screen time, so you're not really sure why you're angry at these guys. And all of that effort builds up to a letdown of a final scene with one of the most ridiculous photos of all time. If you know, you know, and I won't spoil it here. All I will say about that photo right now is that Monolith was really horny, and they really want to make one of their previous protagonists universally liked. Maybe I psyched myself out as I was expecting 3 to tie in the previous 2 games together more, so I won't judge it for what I wanted it to be, but I could still be let down. Despite my yapping, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a good game, maybe even a great one. The gameplay and art holds it up, and it is worth checking out for that alone. It's easily the most welcoming for newcomers, and in a weird way, it encourages you to check out the other games after you clear it. Think of 3 like a hot dog. I ain't ever made a hot dog I did not want to eat. Xenoblade 3 is just a raw, plain core hot dog. Meanwhile, the other games in the series have sauce, veggies, all the good stuff for a fulfilling dog. So take that metaphor as you will. This is Xenoblade 3, and this is, well, other better RPGs. My store did not have hot dog buns, so we're improvising, but I like burritos more. But no matter what, your boy, he can make a good wiener. You can tell I'm American because I compare JRPGs to hot dogs. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was the capper to the epic launch year of the Nintendo Switch. As a result, there were a lot of young players whose introduction to Xenoblade was Xenoblade 2. Remember, back in 2017, at that point in time, one only had a limited release on the Wii and a very esoteric new 3DS port. And Xenoblade Chronicles X was cursed to the Wii U. Oh, Wii U. Everybody hates you but me. So this was the game to get a bunch of brave new Switch owners into Xenoblade and potentially JRPGs as a whole. 2 is definitely the most contested game in the series. For some, this is the absolute pinnacle of the series. For others, it's a frustrating embarrassment to Nintendo and JRPGs as a whole. My experience went from really loving the game at first to hating it to appreciating the strong points while being annoyed at a lot of the other points. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a game that feels like there were 2 different teams working out it with no one to play it before they had to get out the door. And that is not far off from the truth. Monolith was working on Breath of the Wild alongside Xenoblade 2, so staff was spread thin. There were technical issues such as bugs and memory leaks that had to be patched. Outsourcing was used for the character designs with little input given. That's why there's so much variety in character designs. Some of them look really cool, others make you realize that some people just really need to crank their hog, or at the very least pay a visit to the local soapland. Since 2 had such a rough development process, there are a lot of mechanics that might have been better implemented if there was more time to test things out. In practice, some aspects of 2 caused me to drink, so I'm going to vent here for a little bit. This is for my friend who thought like, oh, Z-Man, that's not actual booze, you're just faking it. No, this is real gin, tonic, and I am drinking it at, 2 p.m. on a Sunday, because that's what Xenoblade Chronicles 2 does to you sometimes. That said, for a budget gin, remarkably smooth. For one, the UI is a mess. Finding things in the menu takes way longer than expected, especially in an RPG where a good chunk of your playtime is just spent fiddling around in the menu. Second, the map is awful. It's not layered, and if there is a marker, there's no indication of what floor you need to go to. There was one side mission in Uriah that took me forever to figure out because I did not know what floor to go to. 2 takes forever to get going both in gameplay and story. You don't get a full party until a few hours in, and the plot doesn't bother to get interesting until chapter 4 or so. So the first 5 or 6 hours of the game is just running around until the game decides to pick up the pace. And you can't even really grind until then because you need a full party to take some of the heat off of Rex, and get some extra blades to cover your bases. Field skills are far more time consuming than needed, as you have to make sure your active blades have the right skills to open a door or take a shit or something stupid. And there is nothing more agonizing than being just 1 point shy of a skill clear, because that just means you need to spend more time grinding your blades, which can add hours to an already long ass game. Let alone just making sure you have the right blades with the right field skills in the first place. And finally, the gacha mechanic is atrocious. The game tries to force the message that blades are important, bond with your blade, there might be some brothels with female blades in them, blah 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 blah. However, due to how the gacha mechanic is implemented, Xenoblade 2 encourages the worst kind of roll and release that goes against the themes of the game. You will spend hours rolling aux cores and praying you get a unique blade, or at least a 4-star to hold you over. Most of the time, you get utter crap that you immediately let go as they don't do anything for your party. Even the rare blades go from hilariously OP to making Marvel 2 roll look god tier. I still have no idea how I managed to roll Cosmos so early in on my playthrough of 2, but I am glad I did. The best thing I can say about 2's gacha system is that it forever turned me off to the genre, so I just cranked my hog to the hentai of Fate or Genshin characters instead of playing their whack-ass games. With all of that said, there is a lot of fun to be had in 2. When you unlock more useful blades and get a full party going, the combat really opens up. It is so much fun to do a bunch of blade combos, rack up hella orbs on an opponent, then watch them kerplode after a good chain attack. It does take time to set up, but that just makes the reward all that much more satisfying. My endgame team was Rex, Zeke, and Morag, mostly because I got some really powerful blades early on from Morag and Zeke, and Nia and Tora just could not catch up. And to be frank, I found Nia and especially Tora to be annoying. Yes, I do know that Poppy QT is super OP, but I am lazy and I do not feel like unlocking her for the sake of this video. My opinion on Nia has softened over the years after seeing what they do with her character in later titles. She just left a bad taste in my mouth. Didn't help that the blades I did get for Nia in my playthrough were fairly weak and she just, again, could not catch up with Rex, Zeke, or Morag. While on the topic of Rex, my opinion of him has changed as well. Some people love the guy, others hate him. For me personally, I thought that he was not interesting of a protagonist at first, and he does take up way too much screen time that could have been used to flesh out some of the other characters. But, much like Nia, I do think later games help realize Rex's character more, and I think that within the context of 2 and the character they needed to tell this story, Rex is probably the best character they could have realized. But mid-tier on the great RPG main character tier list. And I think his fit is absolutely silly, but that's just being petty. Then again, as you can plainly see, I am not really in a position to be judging people on their fits. The plot, much like the gameplay itself, is a mixed bag. There were 2 writers for Xenoblade Chronicles 2, fittingly enough, and it shows. The first 4 chapters are just putting cards on the table, then chapter 5 is when the pace picks up. Then it bounces back and forth between the plot advancing and what could be described as anime filler. By the time you unlock the secret character and get this fit for Rex, that's near the end of the game. Thankfully, when you get to that point, the pace really picks up and it all leads towards a very satisfying conclusion, even though Rex has to wear that god-awful outfit for the rest of the game. Even Ludo with his cum sword would be like, dude, after this we are taking your ass to Coles. It does take a long time to get to that ending, but when you get there, it leaves you with a good feeling. Like you just saw a boy realize his potential and become a true man. Those emotional chapters hit right in the gut, and they make you want to see what the next obstacle is and how the heroes overcome it. Yeah, there are a lot of high and low points on the way to that ending, but the high points make the experience all worthwhile. Remember, it's about the journey, not the destination, even though those low points are still causing damage to my liver nearly a decade later. I feel like I was more critical of this title than I intended. I do like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It is not my favorite of the series, but I do like the game. There is one big reason why I prefer 2 over 3. I actually remembered what happened in 2. I couldn't give you the finer details, but off the top of my head, I could at least tell you who the bad guys were and why everybody joined the adventure in the first place. I played 3 much more recently, and I blanked out what happened in the game because most of that game did not stick with me. The point is, if I remember the good points and bad points of a game nearly a decade after playing it, versus a game that's only 3 years old and I can't remember a single freaking thing, that older title is better in my eyes. And that's why I think 2 is a better title than 3. It's an inconsistent title for sure, but the high points trump the low points in my opinion. With all of that in mind, 2 is a title that is not for everyone. Here is my advice. If you played Xenoblade 1, 3, or X and you like them, then check out 2. If you did not like any of those titles, then there is no reality where you would like 2. I know a few people whose favorite game in the series is 2, and that is totally valid. Again, it's an inconsistent experience, but it is one that does stick with you. There is a reason why 2 is so many people's favorite Xenoblade game. You always remember your first time. I'd rather not remember mine. What happens when you condense Xenoblade Chronicles 2 down to its best points? You get Torna. What was supposed to be a tale told in the main campaign of 2 ended up expanding into its, well, own expansion. Torna expands the lore of 2 by focusing on the Aegis War that happened 500 years prior to the events of 2, and giving certain figures more of a spotlight. You play as Laura, a woman on the run after awakening the Blade Jin. Not this Jin. As they try to find Laura's estranged mother, they are eventually joined by Torna Prince Adam, not that one, who pilots Mithra, and Emperor Hugo, with a lovely Bridget and whack-ass Aegeon. Seriously, someone at Monolith must have it out for the dude because he was low tier in Xenoblade 2, and he is still low tier in Torna. Since Torna was built off the back of 2, it basically has the same exact gameplay as that title. With that said, it improves on virtually every issue everybody had with Xenoblade 2. It really does feel like someone went through every complaint people had on Twitter and just went,
Fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it, fix it! Fix it, fix it, fix it!
and they did. For one, field skills got reworked, so you aren't stuck fiddling around in the menu to make sure you have just the right blade for that one specific skill. The main characters are well-rounded and likable in their own ways. Granted, Jin and Malos are the stars of the show, but everyone does get a fair amount of spotlight as opposed to 2's uneven plot importance, and Tora's existence in general. And if you weren't too hot on Mithra from 2, besides just cranking your hog to the endless amounts of smut of her, Torna knocks her down a few pegs and makes her a more flawed but well-rounded character. I know she knows what pegging is. And you would be forgiven for thinking that Adam and Mithra were fucking, but as it turns out, that is not the case. Another point in Torna's favor is that the voice acting is much more consistent thanks to better voice direction. And in general, the combat is much smoother, with more options for combos. And because you have a smaller roster of characters to work with, it makes it easier to play around and find all the game-breaking strats instead of balancing a handful of blades that you manage to roll. And thank the Lord the gacha mechanic is gone. All of this sounds like a winning formula, but there is one admittedly huge flaw with Torna. Early on, you're introduced to the community mechanic, which gets bigger the more side quests you complete. It sounds fine, there's a lot of side quests to do, but you don't have to do them normally. However, at a few points throughout the main campaign, you cannot advance until you build up the community. So guess what that means? Padding. And it's not like the side quests in this game are particularly fun. Most of the time you're just collecting stuff or defeating a certain amount of monsters. It really does feel like Monolith was afraid that people were going to complain about a Xenoblade game not being 80 hours long. So they threw this in here to take what would have been a, 12, 15 hour experience into a nearly 30-hour game. The community mechanic being necessary to clear Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is like you being 3 pages short for your graduation thesis, so you add in tangents just to meet the page goal. Again, not speaking from experience, but is it normal to have nightmares about college 10 years after you graduated? Remember, optional content is not optional if I have to do it to advance the story. And to the game's credit, it is not terribly hard to complete most of the side quests, and they usually avoid the "one more thing" kind of side quests that the base game of 2 had. With all that said, the community feature really does drag Torna out. I think if this game chose to be a simple 12 or 15 hour experience, it actually would have made it stand out more. I am revisiting this game after clearing 1, 2, 3, and playing X again on the Switch, and all of those games can feel really bloated at times. While I do think the community section is a big flaw of Torna, the condensed nature of Torna means that there's a stronger concentration of good without the annoying aspects that held back 2 and 3. The simple fact that a Monolith DLC gave me more content than most standard AAA games these days is a point to how consistent Monolith has become as a developer. So overall, I did enjoy my time with the game, even with that one big flaw. I do think Torna works better if you had cleared 2 first, but it works the other way around. Monolith thinks that the best way to play this game is to play 2 until Chapter 7, then play Torna, then finish 2. I did not do it in that order, so try and let me know in the comments. For the record, I do enjoy 2 and 3, I think they're good titles, but there is a pretty big jump in quality between 3, 2, and Torna. With that said, there's also a pretty big jump in quality between Torna and our next title, so let's get into that. Were you one of those people who was not satisfied with the ending of Xenoblade Chronicles 3? Well, Monolith has an apology letter for you with Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Future Redeemed, a nice little 15-hour adventure set 1,000 years before the events of 3 that manages to tie the quote-unquote Kloss saga together like a pleasant she-body session. 2 heroes, the very British Matthew Van Damme and the mysterious A, have to venture out into the world of Ionius to find Matthew's sister, Niall, as well as free people from the Flame Clocks and kick those Mobius wankas right in the bollocks. Along the way, the 2 joined forces with an older and wiser yet still twink Shulk and an older and much buffer Rex, and their kids Nicole and Glimmer. Now, normally when you make a spin-off to a game, there's usually some compromises. Yes, the game is shorter, it does not have as many lands to explore or quests to complete. At the same time, without the fluff, it's just Xenoblade 3 boiled down to its best points. The combat is just as fun, if not more so than the base game of 3. The world is big enough to get lost in, but not big enough to feel like it's padded out. The music and voice acting are top-notch.
Yeah, well, apart from Gramps sticking to me like glue. But I supported myself.
That explains it then. The way you think of her. As being somehow different from you.
And thank the Lord the community aspect is gone out the window. I thought that the gameplay of 3 hard carried that title more so than the characters or presentation, so just having more of that while ignoring the pacing and dry writing of the base game is a good thing. The characters are a lot of fun. Monolith must have got the hint that the himbos are their most popular characters and said, screw it, that's our hero. The main character Matthew gives off total I'll bash you fucking head in, Asura-Minan vibes. He bounces off the other characters extremely well, especially with A. So what do you think, Matthew and A? They fuggin' or what? And it's great to see Rex and Shulk again after their games concluded. It can be inferred that things in their respective worlds did not go so well if they are back in the saddle for a new adventure without their friends or butt buddies around. It's fun to see them bumble around and try to be parents to their kids, but their interactions give off a different vibe. What do you think? Are Shulk and Rex fucking or what? I would not put it past Rex. And their kids, Glimmer and Nicole, go through a good amount of growth and honestly could have headlined a bigger title than Future Redeemed. As an aside, Monolith, not all of your protagonists need to be related to someone else. While it's spelt out whose dick Nicole and Glimmer shot out of, it's also obvious who came from Matthew later down the line. It's like they want to make a family tree crazy enough to rival the Joestars. Then again, they are not the Rise of Skywalker breaking its spine to connect Rey to Palpatine. I really should just get over the Rise of Skywalker because it's been over 5 years since that movie came out, but damn it, the movie sucked so bad. Ryan Gosling, the fate of Star Wars is in your hands, and Godspeed, my friend, Godspeed. For a long-running series like Xenoblade, each game does do a good job of standing on their own while having just enough callbacks and references to other games that don't alienate people who haven't wasted like 300 hours of their lives on these titles. Like I have. While I do enjoy the writing and plot more than the base game of 3, it does benefit the player to play the other 3 games in the series before Future Redeemed. I can't imagine someone playing Future Redeemed for the first time and fully understanding why Rex and Shulk are such a big deal, or why the colony has such importance to Shulk, or anything about A's situation for that matter. Matthew does act like an audience surrogate, which helps things out. Even then, that only does so much as the ending hits and has some deep cut to the Xeno franchise that no one saw coming. We're talking games that kinda go beyond the scope of this video, that's how deep the references are. I don't think the plot is necessarily a weak point, it just makes it so the game with arguably the best plot and most accessible gameplay is being pulled to the other side with a plot that is really only for hardcore fans of the Xenoblade games. Again, as a fan of the series, I got a lot out of Future Redeemed. Will that be the case for others? Hard to say. Future Redeemed is a weird title. It really does boil down the series to its best points into a compact 15-hour ride that leaves you satisfied. At the same time, there are so many callbacks to the other core games in the series that it can make it confusing for those who haven't touched a Xenoblade game before. That leaves Future Redeemed as both the best starting point and the worst starting point of the series. I still say check it out if you haven't played a Xenoblade game before. If nothing else, it's such a short title that you can decide if the series is for you. For me, as a longtime Xenoblade Chronicles fan, I had a fantastic time with Future Redeemed, and I can say it ends the Klaus saga on a good note. And a game that didn't take 80 hours to beat. Oh man, that gen is putting in some work. This game did not have an easy time getting an American release. Nintendo of America did not care for the game for one reason or another, and it took the effort of Operation Rainfall to get it stateside. Nintendo then acquiesced, but gave Xenoblade an exclusivity deal to GameStop of all people, which led to limited stock and greatly inflated prices. Fun fact, those jerk-offs used to crack open new copies of the game and call them used. I am so glad that GameStop is in the toilet now. Thankfully, after Shulk's debut in Smash 4, a Wii print, and a new 3DS port, and a full-blown remake, Xenoblade 1 broke out of its cult classic status and became a full-blown classic in the RPG genre. I played it on my friend's Wii U when I studied abroad in Kyoto, and I loved it. And after revisiting the Switch port, I still love it. What Xenoblade 1 gets right is the scope. Games during that generation were huge, don't get me wrong. This title utterly dwarfed anything that I had played up until that point. It's a true epic in terms of scope, something comparable to Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones for how massive this world is. Each area on the Bionis or Mykonos is truly alive, with unique flora and fauna. You could just marinate in one spot and admire the world that Monolith created while vibing out to the amazing soundtrack. As someone who played 1 first, it left an impression. Plus, you get rewarded with experience and goodies for exploring, so it's always in your best interest to see all the nooks and crannies of the world. Do people still say nooks and crannies? While exploring the world is fun, this game also gives you purpose in exploring with the story. It starts off on the right foot. Your village is attacked by the evil robots, they kill your bitch, spoiler alert, and you are off on a quest for revenge. That is as good a motivation as anything. But then you keep going and learn the motivations of the characters, how the world works, and even how it was created. All the elements coalesce to make a story that is both grand in scale, but personal. Admittedly, the old JRPG meme applies to Xenoblade 1, but damn it, it's done well here. Plus, the characters are memorable. Shulk starts out as a weedy little twink, but grows into a compassionate, determined, and strong young man. The chemistry between Shulk, Dunban, Ricky, Milia... Does it count as a spoiler if Shulk's final smash spoils it? And everybody's favorite himbo, Rain, is so well written.
Ryan, Shulk, I don't know if I can do it.
What?
Leave it to me.
Ryan!
Oh yeah. Ryan time, baby.
Everybody has their own motivation for joining the party, yet so devoted to each other, and they avoid cliches like infighting or the breakup. I hate those scenes in movies so much. Looking at you, Rise of Skywalker, with your anxiety-inducing arguing. And that is the second Rise of Skywalker reference I made in this video. I really need to lay up the chin. That said, Charlotte is just kinda there. She hangs around to let everybody know that she's still a character. You can give her a skimpy outfit and have her run towards the camera. Whoa. At least she's better than her brother Juju, whose only accomplishments in life are getting kidnapped and using rainbow slugs to fix up a colony. Neat. While I praise the open world, plot, music, voice acting, and art direction, the fighting in Xenoblade 1 is just, good. It's basically an evolved form of Final Fantasy XII's gameplay, which is not a bad thing. Going back to 1 after playing the other titles in the series makes me appreciate how comparatively uncluttered 1 is. That said, the combat in this title is not the main reason that keeps me going. I will fight a fool if I need to, but I am rarely going to go out of my way to bash someone's head in Xenoblade. You can only use 3 characters at any given time, and more than likely your main team is going to be stuck as Shulk, Dunban, and the human perfection known as Ryan. Only really swapping out for special fights. And no matter what, I never found Charlotte's healing status to be useful. The fact that she's a total low-tier character and has little to do with the main plot is a sign of sexism among Monolith. When you get more arts and unlock more of the character's skill tree, that's when things open up greatly. But until then, the combat is just fine. And that's where my favorite part of Definitive Edition comes in, the casual mode. At any point you can change the difficulty and play the game on easy mode. I know some of you are clutching your pearls out there being like, "Oh no, he's playing a game on easy, what a casual, oh the horror." I like the battles, but you get into a lot of fights when you're trying to progress. To me, the fighting was just something you had to do in between the fun things like the story and exploring. By getting through the fights faster, it just makes it that much easier to get to the good stuff. And there is a lot of good stuff in 1. The art, the music, the voice acting, the plot, all of it coalesces so perfectly into what I think is one of the best JRPGs of all time, as well as one of Nintendo's best games period. A must play for any RPG fan, or just gamers in general. I also asked on my community tab page, which is your favorite Xenoblade game? And to my surprise, Xenoblade 1 was the victor by a pretty big margin. I'm not sure if these people got in with the Wii version or the 3DS version or the Nintendo Switch version. Regardless, I'm glad people played it and enjoyed it. That was my first game and I really did enjoy it, but it's not my favorite game in the series, so what's my number one? Well, let's check it out. How do you top an already amazing game? By making the next one even better. I always felt like in the Xenoblade Chronicles discourse that X got the short end of the stick for the longest time. Being stuck in Wii U jail for nearly a decade will do that to you. Somewhere at my parents' house, I have the collector set for the Wii U that came with that cool looking flash drive that could corrupt networks. I think Monolith made the right call to do something different for the next Xenoblade game, instead of going straight into a direct sequel to 1. X is a pure sci-fi space drama in similar categories as Mass Effect or Titan AE, a movie that bombed so bad it killed the studio and put Don Bluth into retirement. How could a movie flop when you have Creed's Higher blasting in the trailer? X is really like those stories, with an alien war breaking out in front of Earth and the humans banding together to board the ship, the White Whale, in search of a new home. Imagine the human race banding together in the face of a great threat. That's how I know this game is truly fiction. And the humans find that home on the planet Mira, not that one, though that would be cool. You make a character and you're off to explore the planet, learn about coexistence, and lose your life to Eldritch abominations that man cannot comprehend. My opinion on X is that the story itself isn't terribly interesting. It's a straightforward sci-fi survival plot with a lot of characters and alien races to balance out. Not to say that there are no twists and turns in the main campaign, and some moments that will leave you with some absolute nightmares. Remember, don't let that bitch shower. I think having the player character be a custom character rather than a fixed hero kneecap the story potential of X. There's still enough of a story to keep you going, and trying to be vague, the ending raises more questions than answers. And that's not getting into the new ending from Definitive Edition, which is what happens when you give your lead writer a copy of Junji Ito's Remina. X is the kind of RPG where the lore and world drive you forward. Mira is a planet that is truly alive in a metaphorical as well as literal sense. Even more than the first title, Mira's environment is worth the price of admission alone. Monolith went above and beyond to create a world that is actually alien. Plus the little references are a bonus. I did not realize that they named the sandworm enemy Atreides. Since you are rewarded for exploring, you don't mind taking on as many side quests as possible, as you want to do them just to see what awe and terror is out there in Mira. And what puts X above the other games in the series, for me at least, is that X has the best combat in the series and it's not even close. You have so many classes and weapon types to use in X. Do you want to go for a knife and a Gatling gun? Do you want to shield up with some dual guns? Or bust out the big freaking Odachi to cuff fools and use a ray gun to blast foes away? And that's not getting into the amount of heroes you can recruit to help you take on the hostile land of Mira. The possibilities are truly endless. I have cleared this game twice on the Wii U, and I'm still fighting game-breaking combos. Then there's the real stars of the show, the skill. Look, I dig giant robots, you dig giant robots, chicks dig giant robots. It's just a fact of life. When you get the skill, a whole new world opens up. So many new areas to explore, things to collect, and monsters to blast into oblivion. It's so cathartic to go back to monsters that were giving you a hard time and sending them straight to their maker with endless amounts of bullets and missiles. Only if I could do that to certain government institutions. For me, X is what I wanted out of an RPG. It's sci-fi, there's a fun world to explore, plenty of monsters to destroy, and giant robots.
What more could a guy ask for?
There are flaws I can nitpick, like yeah, the game takes forever to start, yeah, the models can look awkward at times, especially on the Wii U, but whatever issues I do have with the game are peanuts compared to how much fun I had with the title. As mentioned, I cleared X twice on the Wii U, which is more than I can say for a lot of modern games. Xenoblade Chronicles X is the Xenoblade series at its best, and for me, it's not only the best game of the series, but one of my all-time favorite games, period. So that's my look at the Xenoblade series. Worst to best finished, and I hope you enjoyed it. I do give the series a little bit of flack from time to time, but it's all in good fun. I really do enjoy the series. If I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't have cleared every single game in the series and wasted a lot of my time on it. But it was time I enjoyed, so it really wasn't a waste, so I don't know why I said that. I'm just kind of rambling right now. I do think these are some of the best games you could play. Definitely some of the best bang for your buck. And if they look cool, try them out. Monolith is one of the most consistent developers around, especially at Nintendo, so I'm always going to be excited about what games they're making next. So all we got to do is wait, and hopefully by that time when that game comes out, I will have a Nintendo Switch too, because those things are kind of hard to find in Japan. So yeah, let's just end the video there. So Xenoblade Chronicles, have you played the game? Which is your favorite in the series? Let me know down there in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell so for notifications on future videos. Sorry for the lack of uploads recently. I've been kind of dealing with some mental health issues, but we're dealing with that like an adult. And we're back on it. We're back on the grind making some videos. And yeah, I hope you're along for the ride for our future content. So again, we'll leave it at that. This has been Z-Mangs signing out. We'll see you in the next video. Later, everybody. Take care. If you've followed the Z-Mangs cinematic universe for any length of time, you would know that I am enamored with the Xenoblade Chronicles series. Ever since I played the first game on my good friend Mike's Wii U when we studied in Kyoto together, I've been a fan of the series. With the exception of Future Redeemed, I've cleared all the Xenoblade games and had a great time, for the most part. They are massive games with fun gameplay, epic stories, and top-notch production values. Even though I've praised most of the series to the heavens, as a fan of RPGs, there are so many games out there. Why stay limited to one series? So that's why I made this video, to give some recommendations on RPGs on the Switch that are better than the Xenoblade games. Some rules: the game has to be on Switch. Yakuza Like a Dragon is a masterpiece, but it isn't on Switch. It should be, but RGG doesn't want Nintendo fans to know what a soapland is. Also, the port has to be good. We can all agree that Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are awesome games, but the Switch ports are so bad I had to get counseling from my therapist, Morgan. Morgan, you are a good counselor. As long as the game is on Switch and the Wikipedia article says RPG in the genre, it counts for this video. We're talking turn-based, action-based, old school, new school, and everything in between. There's a lot of game to cover, so let's get right into it. It would also be helpful if you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notifications on future videos, and be sure to watch the video to the end before you comment, okay? Okay. Also, there's no Persona on this list. These games are better than Persona.
These days, good weapons are need no. The master works all. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong.
Thanks to Square and Nintendo having a falling out during the mid-90s and the system itself being a graveyard of cancelled titles, the 64 found itself with a lack of RPGs other than some one-offs that no one really cares about anymore. But the 64 did have a great RPG with Paper Mario. This title was originally going to be Mario RPG 2, but after the fallout with Square, it was retooled into Paper Mario. Charming is the word I would use to describe this title. It's a plot you've seen before. Peach gets captured and Mario has to save her and the kingdom. Where it shines is in the writing and the world building. You never got to see too much of the Mushroom Kingdom before this title, nor got to talk to any of the other races in the Mario games besides just jumping on them. Everybody has a lot to say and it's fun reading. It helps that the game has a great art style. Nintendo 64 games have not aged well graphically, to say the least. Paper Mario with its, well, paper aesthetic just shows that art style trumps graphical prowess any days of the week. It's a laid-back game that doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's not too difficult either. It's just a nice game, and that's all you need. I'm really glad that Nintendo is revisiting the second game on the Switch with the Thousand Year Door, because the Paper Mario games after that title were nothing but a heaping bowl of mid. Sometimes when you go back and play or watch stuff from your childhood and get past the veil of nostalgia, you realize that some of the stuff you liked as a kid didn't age all that well. Phantom Menace looked a lot better in 1999, and that Attack Attack album sounded much better in 2008. RPGs, perhaps more than any other genre, tend to age poorly thanks to underbaked mechanics, forced level grinding, or poor translations. Though some games have aged well, one of them being Phantasy Star 4. Sega took what worked from the previous Phantasy Star titles, ironed out lots of the issues, and made a galaxy-spanning adventure on the Sega Genesis. You play as hunters Chaz and Alice as they are called on to deal with a monster problem. What originally seems to be a basic extermination turns out to be something much bigger than the two, as they need to team up with other heroes and put an end to the evil Zeo. There is a bit of grinding to do, it was the rage back in the 90s after all, but thankfully you can use the macro system to customize your party and take out the monsters quickly and in style. By the time this game came out in 1993, Sega learned how to maximize the power of the Sega Genesis, and you could see that with the anime-inspired cutscenes. They get across the plot and characters as well as you could on a 16-bit system, and the translation still holds up. And that music is absolutely slappin'. The Genesis had a lot of bad soundtracks on it, but if you had a developer that knew what they were doing, you can make some amazing music such as Sonic and, well, the Phantasy Star series. Keep in mind, when this game dropped on the Genesis in 1995 in the States, this game cost $100 at retail. It better have played, looked, and sounded great. $100 bucks?
Well, this better be the best tasting beer in the world! You got lucky!
Phantasy Star 4 is a 16-bit masterpiece, and I can safely say that it's one of the best games of its time and one of the RPG GOATs. If you're curious, the other 3 games in the Phantasy Star series are also available on the Switch and worthy of your time. Just make sure to have a guide nearby. When it was announced that Fire Emblem and Shin Megami Tensei were to cross over, a JRPG that glamorizes the Japanese entertainment industry with loads of fan service was probably not what people were expecting. Set in Tokyo, you play as Aoi Itsuki, as he and his friends investigate the happenings around Shibuya and defeat the big bad with the help of Fire Emblem characters such as Chrom and Sita. Along the way, you hang out with friends, learn the ins and outs of the Japanese entertainment industry, explore dungeons, defeat dragons, standard stuff for Japanese high schoolers. I bought this game for the Wii U back in 2016 and loved it. I was surprised that this title even got a Switch port given how poorly it sold on the Wii U, but here we are. Alice always knows how to make a stylish game. I mean, it's about entertainment, so it has to be a good looking and sounding game. And if I could give an award for amazing UI, Alice would get that reward, and Ryan Gosling would present it to them. Alice would also win the reward for having games set in Shibuya. This game came out right as I was about to move to Japan, so it was a nice teaser of what was to come in the next 7+ years of my life. Though it's totally inaccurate, as Shibuya is never this quiet in real life. There has to be at least one passed out person on the street to be accurate, and even during the pandemic, that part of Tokyo never rested. They also should have ponied up for some brand deals, like having the Tommy Lee Jones coffee be a power-up. This game revolves around high school kids, so no strong zeros here. That's for me. This game was built with Fire Emblem Cross Shin Megami Tensei in mind, and from a gameplay perspective, it takes from Atlus's other RPGs like Persona and Digital Devil Saga. It's classic turn-based RPG goodness where you really have to strategize if you want to make it in showbiz. Don't let the glitzy lights deceive you. This game can be as punishing as any Atlus RPG. I might have had to crank the difficulty down to easy just to clear it. Shameful, I know. Moreover to the point, it's just a well-designed game. One of my bigger pet peeves in JRPGs are quests or dungeons that take too long, Looking at You, the community section, and Torna. Every dungeon and side mission lasts as long as it needs to, and nothing in the game ever felt like it was dragging on for too long or felt like it was undercooked. On my Wii U save, I nearly cleared this game to 100% completion because I had fun doing all the side missions, which is impressive given how many side quests RPGs like to throw at you. You played the game, and you got rewarded with more power-ups and character interactions, and it was all enjoyable. When this game released back in 2016, most people couldn't get over the fact that Nintendo censored the game for the domestic release, which would also be the basis of the Switch port in 2020, because people really wanted to crank their hog to some 3D anime boobies. It hit a sour spot of controversy where people weren't going to buy it for censorship reasons, but didn't generate enough stink for people outside the bubble to care about it. Add to that the Wii U being a really poor seller, and this game was a bit of a flop. And despite all of that, this game has gained a bit of a fanbase who like the art and the gameplay, and I'm one of them. Don't let the weird premise and naysayers dissuade you. Tokyo Mirage Sessions is an excellent JRPG and one of Alice's best. And here's a bit of lost media for you. The Japanese Wii U version of this title had Hot Springs DLC that wasn't localized. With the Wii U eShop going down, unless you had the data saved, the Hot Springs DLC will be lost to time. I could have made a reel or a short about that topic, but I don't think too many people on YouTube or TikTok are looking up Tokyo Mirage Sessions Lost Media, but they should. The indie scene became flooded with RPGs inspired by Earthbound that deconstruct the JRPG genre. While those games are objectively great, I kinda just hate those games because they sacrifice fun gameplay for plots that want to be edgy and make its point, while creating fanbases that redefine annoying. Thankfully, Sea of Stars avoids that. This is a throwback RPG to Super Nintendo games like Chrono Trigger in all the best ways. Set in the distant past, two warriors, Zale and Valerie,
Take the moon and you take the sun.
and go on a quest to stop an evil alchemist from taking over. Not exactly the most original plot around, but it's a throwback. Something about this 2D pixel art never gets old. While I don't think a game like this could have been made on the Super Nintendo, I'm glad people are sticking with the 16-bit art style. Lots of vibrant colors, detailed sprites, and great lighting effects make Sea of Stars stand out in a scene filled with 2D graphics. The music is also bumpin', which is important for an RPG. Gameplay is also lots of fun. It's turn-based, but if you time your button presses you can do more damage to your opponents, kind of like Earthbound or Paper Mario. It is a bit on the easy side, and there are some ideas that don't get as fleshed out as you want them to be, and it would also help to play the game The Messenger first, which I haven't. This is the newest title on this list, so I'm not sure what the general consensus is or how it will age over time, but I like it and I'm the one making the video. You can't talk about RPGs without bringing up the face of the genre, Final Fantasy. Most of the main games are on the Switch, and you can make an argument for any of the Final Fantasy titles that should be on this list. But for the sake of variety, we're only picking one title, and that title is 10. 10 was an early killer app on the PlayStation 2, and the title holds up very well to this day. Keep in mind, this game was released in 2001. Final Fantasy 8 and 9 were released on the PlayStation 1 in 1999 and early 2000 respectively. What a massive jump in graphical quality. A decade of experience in turn-based RPG development led to Squaresoft nailing the style in 10. It uses conditional turn-based combat, CTB for short. Don't change those letters around, it can save your life. Or make your night, I'm not sure what you're into. What CTB means is that what you do on your turn means how long you have to wait until you can move again. Do you use an item and move again sooner? Or burn in overdrive and hold out for longer? It makes for some thrilling battles. The sphere grid also allows you to customize your party to your needs for the trials and tribulations of the pilgrimage. The world in 10 is just great. There's a somber mood throughout the story as you travel across Spira to Zankarend and stop the cycle of sin. You get a lot of info from the main cast and they really stick with you, even after the game ends. This is also a love story, and the romance between Titus and Yuna feels natural, and by the end of the game you really want to see them happy together. The romance was better in 10 than a certain spoiler romance from Xenoblade 2, that's for sure. And yeah, the voice acting could be rough at times, but hey, it was the year 2001. We were lucky to get actual voice actors like James Arnold Taylor and John DiMaggio instead of whatever English speakers were in Japan at the time. A plot where a young man gets transported into a different time, befriends a character voiced by John DiMaggio, and wants to bang his co-worker. Sounds familiar. Add to that a world that slowly opens up with lots of side quests and blitzball to take on, and you have yourself a winner. The version for Switch I have includes 10 and 10-2 on the same cart, so I recommend getting this version if you can. Though this one is actually my favorite Final Fantasy game. The 7th generation was not kind to Capcom to say the least. Not to say it was all bad for them during that time. In fact, they put out one of their best games ever with Dragon's Dogma: Dark Arisen. This is unironically one of my favorite games ever. The game kicks off right away. You make your character, your sleepy fishing village gets attacked by a dragon, the dragon takes your heart, and you must kill it. Sounds easy enough. And from there, the world of Granzis is your burrito. You can go anywhere and do anything and see what adventures are out there. What makes Dragon's Dogma special compared to other RPGs is the combat. There are 9 classes in the game, and they're each fun to play as. You can keep it classy with a sword and shield, channel your inner guts with the warrior class and wield the biggest swords like toothpicks, or you can confuse and zone out the monsters with the Mystic Archer, which is a class that helps a lot in the dark and cramped hallways of the Bitter Black Isle. There's a weight to everything like Monster Hunter or Dark Souls, and at the same time it's snappy like Devil May Cry. And for the big lads, you can climb up them like Shadow of the Colossus and cut them right in the taint. Right in the taint. Throughout the game, you have a CPU ally called a pawn for support. Much like the player character, the Arisen, you can adjust them for your needs. I usually kept my pawn as a sorcerer for support spells and being an item caddy. Unsurprisingly, there are a lot of waifus for pawns. Guilty as charged. Okay, like you wouldn't bang your pawn? Let's be real about Dragon's Dogma though. It is a game with a crap ton of issues. You'll be fighting a lot of the same bad guys each time you venture out into the field. There's no mounts and fast travel was poorly implemented, so you'll be getting your steps in. Using consumables is a pain and you'll have way more items than you'll know what to do with. Capcom didn't know how scaling works, so you either one-shot everything or spend an hour chipping away at someone's health bar while you explode if they so much as look at you funny. That awesome song from Bees was removed from vanilla Dragon's Dogma to Dark Arisen, bringing back the cheesy J-pop for your games, Capcom, and the voice acting as well. It's just perfect.
Smite the foe. There's no deep trick to it, eh? An honesty to that there is. Come to think on it, you've got a bit of that feel to you too, eh?
With all of that said, this game is far greater than the sum of its parts. It's kind of like the Xenoblade games in that regard. They have a crap ton of flaws, but despite that the game's strong points far outweigh their bad. There's a reason why Dragon's Dogma has a devoted and active meme group on Facebook, plus ports to every modern system, and now a sequel slated for release in 2024. Plus, what other game can you throw bunnies, stab monsters in the nipple, and accidentally marry a prostitute? This game was originally 9 on this list, but it kept creeping up to here. I actually have a lot to say about this title, so I might make a Dragon's Dogma video before the second one releases. Oh yeah, there's also the Netflix series, which is only worth watching if you're so hungover that you can't move. Not saying that from experience. I know I had this game be number 2 on my Game of the Year list for 2022, losing to Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but I had a change of heart. The remake of Live Alive was the best game of 2022. I'm still blown away that this title was first released in the 90s for the Super Famicom. Trying to make a multi-genre game can be very difficult, but somehow, a game from 1994 did it beautifully. There's chapters based on fighting games, space survival horror, westerns, and even giant robots. All the chapters have their strengths to make them stand out from each other and not feel like you're doing the same thing with a new coat of paint. Like the Caveman chapter has more of a focus on slapstick humor, whereas the Ninja chapter is more serious and focuses on stealth. Just when you think the game is playing things straight, it pulls the rug from under you and brutally deconstructs the JRPG genre decades before the indie scene would do so. In fact, this game was one of Toby Fox's inspirations for Undertale. Everything leads up to a generation-spanning adventure with a massive payoff. I think Marty can explain why this game didn't do so hot back in the day.
I guess you guys aren't ready for that yet. But you kids are gonna love it.
The remake rebalances the title to be more accessible, as well as adding in a lot of extras. You can tell Square Enix had a lot of fun making this game. Did we need an anime-style giant robot opening? Yes. Yes, we did. The voice acting is also top-notch. I don't know where Square got these actors from, but hire me, Square, I want to be in a video game. Live Alive is an epic in every sense of the word, and a game that is a must-play for any RPG fan. The whole point of this video is for me to talk about Neo: The World Ends With You again. If you've been keeping up with the Z-Mang cinematic universe, you would know that I am very fond of this title. You play as Rindo while hanging out in Shibuya, the Booyah with his friend Fred. Their lives get turned upside down as they get pulled into the Reaper's game. They start the team, the Wicked Twisters, and have to survive week after week and escape the game. From there, it's a wild ride of revelations, smiles, heartbreak, nightmares, development, and triumph. While not a generation-spanning adventure like Live Alive or a god-killing one like Xenoblade, this is a very personal journey. You see the Wicked Twisters address their personal issues and grow as people throughout their time in the Reaper's game. Sometimes you don't need to kill a god for a great RPG. Just seeing your characters grow as people is all you need. That said, you do fight some powerful figures in this game, but no spoilers here. I want you to play the game for yourself. I cleared this game back in 2021, but I always kept thinking about my time with the Wicked Twisters. Much like any hardship, it stinks going through it, but by the end of it you grow as a person. That was me in 2021 and why I usually looked hungover or tired in vids at the time. That year sucked for me, guys. But Rindo, Fred, and the rest of the Wicked Twisters and I made it through that year safe and sound, and we're all the better for it. This title was made for me. It's an urban RPG set in Shibuya, a highly accurate version of Shibuya at that. Fast-paced gameplay, lots of customization with the pins you get from erasing noise. I wonder what the Strong Zero pin would do. Top-tier production values, and what might be the best game OST ever. There's a reason why I use music from this game in my vids whenever I can. Square Enix really messed up the promotion of this game, and it sold way worse than the first title. I didn't know that it released until a Discord friend told me about it. The first title was a cult classic, but has a legacy, so getting a sequel at all was a pleasant surprise. I hope Square learns from their mess-ups on the promotion on this game and revisits the title. Even if they don't, we got 2 kick-ass RPGs with the World Ends With You series. The first game is also on Switch, but be warned, the controls for the first title can be awkward in dock mode. Neo the World Ends With You is a standout title in Square Enix's expansive library, and one that I want to see more of. Seriously, Square, did you just forget that you were making Neo the World Ends With You? I knew more about Balan Wonderworld than I did about this title. Why promote the turd, bury the gold? I shouldn't have to go on a random Discord with only 20 people to figure out your new game release, Square! I need to calm down. Captain Morgan, take me away. You ever have one of those games or movies that everyone tells you is amazing, but for whatever reason you never got around to it? That's my relationship with Hades. And Keith, if you're watching this video, you owe me a drink. Yes, I am playing on the PlayStation, but this game is available on Switch. But the PlayStation 4 version was way cheaper than the Switch version. Save money for more games and drinks. After some time with this title, this game definitely deserved all the praise it got. It's a roguelike RPG where you play as the son of Hades, Zagreus, as you try to escape the underworld. Along the way, you meet other Greek gods and learn about their stories and why these mythological figures are so messed up. You learn that you can't run away from your problems. You and Zagreus have to learn how to take them head on, and to take them on, you're going to die many, many, many times. Originally, I thought this title was like,
you don't win, you just do a little better each time.
But each time I did a run through the underworld, I got a little further. There wasn't much in the way of in-game instructions, it was just kinda go out there and go. But after a bit of practice, I quickly adapted to the game's rules, finding new weapons and powers that would aid me on my quest. You die a lot, but it's a lot like Dark Souls or Cuphead where death just motivates you to break through it all. And for an independent title, the AAA production values on this game cannot be understated. The music fits the game perfectly and would be great on any gym playlist. It's on Spotify, which is a bonus. Hey Nintendo, put your music on Spotify. I want to do my squats to Fire Emblem music. The voice acting is top tier, they capture the emotions and personality of these legendary figures perfectly. And that's also another reward for making a run through Hades, the characters. In games like Dead Cells or Wo Long, I don't care about the plot, I just want to get out there and fight. In Hades, I wanted to know more about everyone because they are so fleshed out. I feel like you could have a conversation with anyone in this game and you'd be satisfied. If you look and act like Megara, DM me. And yes, you can pet the monstrous doggo, always a plus. Getting new dialogue for doing a run is a reward in itself besides fighting a bunch of monsters. Overall, Hades is a masterpiece that earned its praise, and I am kicking myself that I haven't played this game earlier. Can we get these developers to make a new Kid Icarus game? Every time I make one of these videos, I ask, wish, nay pray for some love for one of my favorite esoteric video game franchises. I probably am just yelling out into the void, but you never know that someone, somewhere, someday might hear my voice and give us some new Kid Icarus love or Skies of Arcadia love. Here are some honorable mentions. From the moment I planned this video, number 1 was set in stone. In Japan, the Dragon Quest series helped codify and popularize the JRPG genre and inspire many popular games. Without it, we probably wouldn't have Final Fantasy or Earthbound. Most games in the series are solid, and years worth of experience have led up to what I consider to be JRPG perfection. In 11, you play as the Luminary. You venture out across the world of Adrea with a ragtag group of heroes to stop Mordegon and the Dark One. Despite that simple plot, it's a personal journey for the Luminary, as he learns about the world and his destiny. Along the way, there's tears, tragedy, and triumph, and there were actually a few points in the story where I teared up. Hey, we wouldn't be the hero if there wasn't sacrifice along the way. Variety is the key word here. By the end of the game, you get 8 party members to choose from, and you can swap in and out at any time. Everyone has a lot of skills to unlock and can be built for your needs. Dual-wielding swords as the Luminary? Yes please. This game throws in a lot of curveballs to keep you on your toes. If you want a challenge, you can mess around with the draconian settings and make the game as easy or as difficult as you want it to be. This is a game that is well over 100 hours long, and not once did I ever feel bored or that the game was dragging on. Moreover to the point, this game has something that is crucial to an RPG: character. Square Enix took a lot of time writing the English script, and it shows each character having fun dialogue that perfectly encapsulates their personality. Everyone has a good backstory and grows throughout the journey. You really do get attached to your party. Each region has their own culture to appreciate, and it only adds to the feeling of Adrea being a living, breathing world. And of course, you have beautiful and vibrant art. Akira Toriyama is the GOAT for a reason. Add to that weapon crafting and the casino for palette cleansers, Talkington quests, and the ability to play this game like a 2D RPG and a lengthy post-game, and you have yourself a winner in the JRPG genre. It's a game that I spent many a day and night playing, and it's a game that's going to stick with me for a long time. If you want perfection, look no further than Dragon Quest XI. If you know me at all, you could have seen number 1 coming a mile away. By the way, Square Enix, where's Dragon Quest XII news at? You've been really quiet on that front. I think the point of this video is that it's good to expand your horizons and try new things. If you're a Xenoblade fan, maybe try some other RPGs. I'm mostly a metal guy, but I like listening to hip-hop and electronic music. I like Nintendo games, but I also like Sony games, I like Sega games, I like all kinds of games. I'm normally a tequila guy, but got me some rum. So if you take anything away from this video, take away that, and I really hope this video doesn't come across as too gatekeepy, and if it does, well, sorry. But if the Xenoblade Chronicles series is your thing, that's your favorite video game series, good, I'm with you there, but don't be afraid to try something new. It might enlighten you. And with that, the video is over, so thank you for watching, everybody. So leave me some comments. What are your favorite RPGs? Doesn't have to be on the Switch at all. It could be any RPG ever. Let me know down there in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell as well for notifications on future videos. As always, I'm active on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, @Zmings, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, everybody. Take care.